which the PM provides it. The PM would rather you say just thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, he suggests you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, he doesn't give a damn about what you're entitled to.
Will my honourable friend give way?
I will give way.
Following the revelations at the Foreign Affairs Select Committee today by Oliver Robbins, who said how the Prime Minister had pushed for Peter Mandelson to be appointed and also was pushing for his former Director of Communications, Matthew Doyle, to be appointed as well, unqualified for the post. Would my honourable friend agree? These are not the actions of a Prime Minister concerned about...
Very, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News today. Keir Starmer continues to fight for his political life as Kemi Badenoch accuses him of disrespecting the House.
The first duty, Mr. Speaker, of any Prime Minister is to keep this country safe. This Prime Minister has put the country's national security at risk. He must take responsibility. It is time for him to go.
And earlier today, the fall guy fought back as Sir Robbins turned from the assassinator to the assassin, firmly putting the blame back in the court of Sir Keir Starmer.
My office, the Foreign Secretary's office, were under constant pressure. The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance.
And next, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage piled on the pressure, claiming he simply doesn't believe Sir Keir Starmer.
Been a number of red flags all the way along the road. So, no, I don't accept this at all. Even without the official vetting, it was pretty obvious that Mandelson was the wrong candidate for America.
Forensic in opposition. Yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer was reduced to a laughingstock in the House of Commons.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
But today, will the last laugh be on the Prime Minister? How much longer can Keir Starmer hang on to his political career? Well, for further analysis, as that debate continues in the House of Commons, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, and also the columnist at the Daily Mail, Dan Hodges. Welcome to you both. Dan, may I start with you? I know you're very keen to get back to that debate for yourself in person. How much longer can the Prime Minister hang on? It looks like curtains for the man.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in the end game now. I mean, it's hard to see how Ollie Robbins' evidence could have been more devastating from the Prime Minister's perspective. I mean, there are so many different aspects. I'm sure we'll touch on a number of them, but there are so many different aspects of his evidence. But for me, the key thing was, and I mean, we've discussed this quite a lot over the last few weeks and months. The key thing for me goes back to something that Keir Starmer said in the House of Commons last September, when he specifically said due process had been followed in relation to Peter Mandelson's appointment, as it is with all ambassadors. We had the spectacle over the last week of Keir Starmer angrily protesting that he was shocked and angry when it emerged that Peter Mandelson had failed his vetting and that Keir Starmer, hadn't been told that. What we learnt today was the incredible piece of information that Downing Street in the Cabinet Office, throughout the supposed due process, had actually been pressuring the Foreign Office and officials to put Peter Mandelson in post in Washington without any vetting at all. They literally said, and Downing Street have effectively confirmed this, that they were saying because Peter Mandelson was a peer and because Peter Mandelson was a Privy Councillor, the whole vetting process should and could have been circumvented. So the statement from the Prime Minister that due process had been followed was a complete lie. Just a complete lie.
A lot of accusations that Sir Keir Starmer misrepresented the House, told falsehoods in the House. He said it was all unwitting, unknowingly. Does today's fresh volley of evidence from Sir Ollie Robbins place doubt over that? Tomorrow, PMQs, that could be shooting fish in a barrel time.
Well, it more than places doubt on it. It confirms beyond any doubt that Keir Starmer has consistently been misleading the House and misleading the country. Because as I've said, as we've seen, we saw the clip from Ollie Robbins. Downing Street were consistently putting pressure on the people who were conducting and trying to conduct due process to not just sort of accelerate that process, but to just throw the due process out the window and to get Mandelson in place as quickly as possible. And as Kemi Badenoch said that this is not just a political issue. The vetting process was done to ensure that whoever was put in post in Washington had been properly vetted, because they would get access to some of the most, not some of, the most sensitive intelligence within the British diplomatic service, and also the most sensitive intelligence that was marshalled and shared with us by our allies. And Downing Street, at the Prime Minister's insistence, tried to drive Mandelson into Washington without that due process being conducted. Now, as you said, we've got Prime Minister's questions coming up tomorrow. What is Keir Starmer going to do? Are we again going to have the spectacle of Keir Starmer saying, yes, Downing Street were doing this, yes, my officials were doing all this, but I didn't know anything about it? Are we going to have the "it didn't cross my desk" excuse again? We've got the other issue that's been opened up today about this incredible story about his former Director of Communications, Matthew Doyle. Apparently Downing Street pressing for him to be given some sort of foreign post, staggeringly and specifically behind the back of the Foreign Secretary. You know, the Foreign Office officials were told, don't tell the Foreign Secretary. Again, is Keir Starmer going to say this was all done without his knowledge and consent? I mean, we're getting to the point now where Keir Starmer's, insistence, "it didn't cross my desk," is becoming so ridiculous, you're starting to wonder if he's even got a desk. I mean, the whole thing is just so implausible now.
The knives are drawn left, right and centre. How much longer do you believe that the Prime Minister can stagger on? We've got important elections coming up. There's been a movement today on the betting market, a huge amount of money piling into Angela Rayner. How much longer can this charade go on for, Dan?
Not much longer. I mean, he may stagger on till the local elections. Obviously, the local elections are going to be the first opportunity for the country to give their verdict on these issues via the ballot box. I think we know what that verdict's going to be. But I've got to say, I mean, as we've said, we've got Prime Minister's questions coming up tomorrow. One of the things that was noticeable yesterday, I was watching the debate in the chamber. One of the things that was noticeable, the longer it went on, you could literally see Labour MPs starting to withdraw, both in terms of physically leaving the chamber, but also the level of the support they were giving the Prime Minister. And you played the sort of the decisive clip of the decisive moment when Starmer made his statement and was openly mocked in the gallery, in the Commons, by across the benches. And it reminded me of, it was almost like Keir Starmer's Ceausescu on the balcony moment. You could suddenly see the penny dropping and him realising, oh dear, what have I got myself into here? And you could see Labour MPs saying, OK, enough of this now. So he's got to get through Prime Minister's questions tomorrow. I'm not sure how he does that. I mean, I'm still not entirely convinced we will not, at some point over the next couple of weeks, have some sort of statement from Keir Starmer saying, look, I appreciate this, it can't go on like this.
You think he might resign?
At some point in the next couple of months, he's quite clearly going to have to resign over this issue. This is obviously now going to be the issue that brings him down. I mean, we've had Yvette Cooper sort of start to withdraw support in the House of Commons today. She was being very critical about the Matthew Doyle issue. I mean, as I said, gradually you can see Starmer's cabinet and Starmer's MPs, as it were, encircling the wagons. So, I mean, I just do not see how he staggers on for much longer.
Dan Hodges, thank you very, very much for your time. I know you want to get to that debate. I'll let you get cracking now. Thank you very much, Dan Hodges. Superb. Thanks for your time. Let's get to my next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin. Sarah, welcome to the show. You heard, no doubt there, Dan Hodges saying this is it, the final curtain needs to fall for the Prime Minister, perhaps within a couple of months. What's your take?
Look, Martin, the fact that this Prime Minister is claiming that he didn't know what Number 10 were doing, didn't know the pressure that Number 10 were putting on the Foreign Office to clear the vetting, it's inconceivable. Nobody believes that. The British people are trying to wade through all of these facts. To be fair, for the average person, what's going on here in Westminster is probably as clear as mud. But let's try and make it simple. The simple fact is this Prime Minister is either incompetent or he's lying.
And which one of those two do you believe it is?
Well, look, whichever it is, he's on the edge now of losing his premiership. He is clinging on for dear life. The question is, will they get rid of him? Will the Labour Party get rid of him before or after the local elections? Because, of course, we are all expecting Labour to be obliterated in these upcoming local elections on May the 7th.
Sarah Pochin, perhaps be careful what you wish for if you're thinking ahead to the next Labour leader. There's been a big movement on the betting markets, I hear today, on Angela Rayner. How does that prospect grab you?
Well, look, if it's Angela Rayner, if it's Ed Miliband, Wes Streeting, whichever one it is, the markets are not going to be happy. They're going to be far left. And we're going to be facing potentially a financial crisis with the bond markets, and certainly more uncertainty when it comes to business. And of course, business are desperate for a government that supports them so that we can get back on the road to economic growth.
Sarah Pochin, do you think when it comes down to it, the modus operandi of the Starmer regime seems to be to throw somebody overboard every time there's a crisis? There are no bodies left. There's a higher body count now than a Schwarzenegger movie. The fact of the matter is, when Ollie Robbins went overboard, we saw clearly today a dignified, principled public servant who seems to have done the correct thing. He simply followed his brief, and for that, he got the bullet. Do you think now the fall guy is the wrong guy? The right fall guy should be the Prime Minister.
Well, what we see in this Prime Minister is that it's everybody's fault but his own. It doesn't matter how many times he U-turns, how many times he changes his mind. He's not got the courage of his convictions. The British people do not know what this Prime Minister stands for. He's never been clear on that, and we've never seen it from him. He claims to adhere to all the human rights laws and all the correct procedures, but even with this vetting procedure, it's been an absolute unmitigated disaster. The appointment of Mandelson. Cronyism is rife clearly now with Matthew Doyle. Everything he claims he stood for, he clearly doesn't. He's not going to be able to last much longer. I agree with the comment by Dan Hodges. It's going to be weeks.
Sarah Pochin, we saw Ed Miliband, of course, who won't come on this channel. Ed, just my usual reminder, you're always welcome, mate. You can always come and join us here, either in Paddington or in Westminster. But even Ed Miliband today, you could sense that distancing coming out, Sarah Pochin, saying, yeah, you've got a point. Sir Keir Starmer shouldn't have made the disappointment in the way he did. He invited disaster, with even the closest allies of the Prime Minister now seemingly melting into the sidelines. Is that the real indication that the game is up?
Look, how do you defend, whether he's your boss, your leader, the Prime Minister, how do you defend a man who was appointed somebody who was sacked once for his links to the Chinese, sacked twice from the cabinet for his links to Russia, and then is a close friend of a convicted paedophile, and yet he still appointed him? So it doesn't matter who said what to whom and who was arguing about vetting processes. All the British people see is a Prime Minister who is lacking in judgment, lacking in conviction, and clearly now his supposedly closest allies are distancing themselves.
Sarah Pochin, PMQs tomorrow. Wow, what a ticket that's going to be. It should be a lot of fun.
Well, PMQs has turned into a rather boring affair of late, with this Prime Minister not answering any of the questions he's asked. I agree with you, however, tomorrow will be a bit of theatre, I am sure.
Should be a packed house. Sarah Pochin, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your time. Always a pleasure. That's Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin. Now, lots more still to come between now and 4 p.m. Of course, I'll get to Catherine Forster in a moment. You've been waiting patiently, listening in for the latest lines from that debate, including we've got the cabinet rumblings are growing today as Keir Starmer engages in an extraordinary death match with Whitehall over the Mandelson scandal. All the ongoing reactions to that live debate, that's next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition. Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, debate time is 3:25. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, just a reminder, we've got some live pictures on your screen now from a Commons debate presently taking place as we speak. An emergency debate on Keir Starmer's future is happening in the Commons. We'll get some pictures of that in a moment's time. But meanwhile, Keir Starmer does continue to fight for his political life today as Kemi Badenoch accuses him of disrespecting the House.
The first duty, Mr. Speaker, of any Prime Minister is to keep this country safe. This Prime Minister has put the country's national security at risk. He must take responsibility. It is time for him to go.
I came this morning to the Foreign Affairs
Live pictures on your screen now of that debate carrying on. You can notice the fact, as Dan Hodges said, there's hardly anybody from the Labour Party there. On the front bench, we have Darren Jones and maybe one or two other ministers. No sign of Keir Starmer. He'll be probably in a darkened room with the curtains drawn ahead of PMQs tomorrow. There'll be time to face the music then, but a very sparsely attended debate from the Labour side of affairs. Let's get some analysis now from GBNews' chief political correspondent Catherine Forster, who's been waiting patiently the whole show thus far. Catherine, let's have a quick look back at some of the highlights, the low blows that Keir Starmer has faced in this debate already. Let's start with Kemi Badenoch tearing into Keir Starmer.
Yes, a particularly brutal line from her in the last few minutes where she said that the Prime Minister has no interest in doing the job of Prime Minister, just in being the Prime Minister. And we've heard so often that this is a man who is incurious, who delegates, who isn't sort of fizzing with ideas and vision, very much a passenger, the accusations are, in his own government. There's a More in Common poll out today that said that 74% of the public feel that the Prime Minister is not in control of his government. That includes, I think, 44% of people that voted Labour at the last election. And also, another thing she said that I think was very damning was she said, you know, the first duty of government is to keep its citizens safe. The Prime Minister is failing to do that with this issue over the vetting. Now, it's only a week ago that Lord Robertson, one of the authors of the Strategic Defence Review, was accusing the Prime Minister of the same thing, of corrosive complacency on defence spending, of not keeping us safe. And matters of national security, it doesn't really get any more important than this. I think clearly all the opposition parties are absolutely loving this, aren't they? And well, they might, because the Prime Minister was a man who in opposition repeatedly called for Boris Johnson to resign, I think 6 times. He was very holier than thou about standards. He promised a government of ending the chaos, of accountability, of transparency, and look where we are now. So I think it's no surprise to me that there's not many Labour MPs sitting there, because if they're sitting there, they're basically getting a punishment beating for a decision which was not of their making by a Prime Minister who is clear that he's made a bad call. But so many people are losing their jobs. I mean, number 10, the churn in number 10 is unbelievable. I think he's gone through 2 chiefs of staff, 2 cabinet secretaries, 3 director of comms. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. As we asked in lobby this lunchtime, why is it that the Prime Minister makes an error of judgment over appointing Mandelson, and that's unfortunate but fine. Ollie Robbins, who he's admitted himself is a dedicated public servant, perhaps made an error of judgment, he would say not, and he's booted out as well.
Yeah, they say there's no such thing as a safe seat with the Labour Party. The seats in Keir Starmer's staff's office are turning into ejector seats. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by the Labour commentator Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Thank you for turning up. Hardly anybody from the Labour Party has turned up in the Commons. As Catherine Forster said there, perhaps no surprise, they'll be simply up for a punishment beating. Do you get the sense that close allies of the Prime Minister now beginning to melt away, exposing the Prime Minister, who now seems to be very, very much in peril?
Absolutely, Martin. I was watching the footage from before, and my hands, I was like this, oh my God. And I think lots of people are going to be having the same reaction. I think what has come out today, and obviously we all knew there was more to come out. We all knew that there was a bigger story. And I said, I was in the studio over the weekend, and I did say that the thing that Keir Starmer should have done is get everything out straight away. I mean, first of all, he should never have appointed Peter Mandelson. So that's the number one lesson. That guy should never have been anywhere near any positions of power after the way he'd been sacked previously. And the fact that so many previous MPs who were obviously in Gordon Brown's government and Tony Blair's government, they did not like him. They did not trust him. They did not think he should be given any kind of position whatsoever. So that is that will be reflected, and as Dan Hodges said just now, we're going to see the elections in a couple of weeks, the local elections, and we're going to see that reflected. We're going to see people who had maybe been wavering or maybe on the fence, not really sure, kind of still a big question mark in their minds of which party to go for. I think they are going to be voting against Labour. And so that is obviously a concern for activists and people who are campaigning, people who genuinely believe in the Labour government and want to see Labour councillors returned after the 7th of May. And another point, Martin, I just wanted to point out, because obviously I've been through the vetting process myself. I was working as an MP's personal parliamentary aide, and I know how long it takes. It's not straightforward. They ask a lot of questions, and obviously the exchange that Ollie Robbins revealed today, where there was, just effing approve it. Obviously, that did not come from Keir Starmer. That came from his former chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, who has already fallen on his sword because he was one of the main people behind promoting Mandelson. So there's lots and lots of heads that have already rolled. Is what you said? The bodies have already been sort of like, thrown up. Who's next? But yeah, it is a really, really precarious time right now. Everybody is wondering how much longer is this going to carry on.
Okay, Aisha, can I ask you, from an activist's point of view, and obviously we don't want to talk about the local elections, we don't want to get into trouble, but generally, from an activist's point of view, how much of a millstone is it around a party's neck to have a leader who's clearly just lost their way and clearly is the number one barrier, if you like, with the electorate? In terms of the Parliamentary Labour Party, the base, what's the mood amongst them? Do they want Keir Starmer gone as soon as possible?
I think what I've seen and people I've spoken to, I mean, obviously Westminster, it's in a little bubble, it's in London, and people on the local level are more bothered about the bins being taken, the street lights, potholes, and so on, things that really affect them, things like council tax increases and so on. And they're upset, they're angry, everything is kind of hinging on people coming out and voting, and some people might not want to vote. And what we've seen as of people who've been door knocking, a lot more questions. People are more savvy. They're asking questions. They're asking, what is Labour doing to do this? And obviously, the overriding picture is the politics is what is going on in Westminster. This is something that does not impact people on a local level, but of course
Aisha,
it does.
I want to ask you a question, if I could. How long do you think Keir Starmer has got? Weeks, months, days, Christmas? Give me an estimation.
Honestly, Martin, anything goes. And obviously we saw the betting, we saw figures, we saw people like Angela Rayner. And my own prediction, and this is, I'm not taking any sides, I feel that at some point Angela Rayner will be installed as a caretaker Prime Minister until Andy Burnham can be in a position to actually go for the leadership. And that could be months, could be years, I don't know. But right now, and we saw this in real time just now, MPs getting up and leaving, and people just kind of shaking their heads and just, doing the whole head in hand thing, where this is serious, this is really bad. And also, Martin, you and I we're both political animals, you understand. It's never the actual thing that gets the person, it's the cover-up that follows. And I think what people are seeing, whether that's right or wrong, whether that's true or not, what we are seeing is something that looks a little bit like a cover-up. And yeah, so this is like I said, it's a very precarious time right now for Labour going forward.
OK, thank you very much for joining us. Labour commentator Aisha Ali Khan, thank you very much. Thank you to you, Catherine. Plenty more from you before the end of the show. Loads more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including...
The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out of Washington quickly.
Yesterday, Keir Starmer's hopes of surviving the Mandelson scandal were dealt a huge hammer blow as his sacked Foreign Office chief says he was pressured into waving through that appointment. All the reactions to this political scandal, that's next here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many, it is going to be another largely fine day. Plenty of sunshine on offer. Just watch out for some strong winds in the southwest. And there is a bit of rain around this morning across some parts of southern Scotland, northern England, also across Northern Ireland. A few spots of light drizzly rain as we go towards lunchtime. Otherwise, lots of dry weather, lots of blue sky. And with that sunshine then, it's going to feel pretty warm for most of us. A little bit fresher towards North Sea coastal parts, the winds coming in from here. Elsewhere, many places getting into low to mid-teens Celsius. Do, like I say, watch out for those strong gusty winds towards the southwest, however. Could see gusts of around 50 miles per hour in some exposed spots, particularly over the moors. As we go into this evening, there will be a bit of cloud towards northeastern parts of Scotland. Clearer skies, though, across the rest of Scotland, so a bright, sunny end to the day here. Similar across Northern Ireland, dry and bright as we go through the evening. Across much of England and Wales, it's also going to be bright and fine. Still those strong winds to watch out for, particularly towards the southwest, but across some southern coastal parts, it will be quite gusty here as well. Then overnight, more cloud across the far northeast of Scotland is going to encroach a little bit further southwest, so pushing across eastern parts of Scotland, some southern areas, and perhaps a little bit into England as well. Could be some low clouds, some murkiness, some mist, some fog, but elsewhere many places, yes, staying dry and clear skies, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Could be a touch of frost in some prone spots. Now, some of that low cloud towards the northeast could take quite a while to clear as we go through tomorrow, but most places will have another largely fine day. Plenty of blue sky on offer yet again. Still strong gusty winds, though, towards the southwest. Cloud building here and a bit of rain perhaps towards the Isles of Scilly and maybe the tip of Cornwall as well. Temperatures similar to today, so mid-teens for many of us, always feeling cooler where we have some strong winds. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Currently, on the A9 northbound at Broxton, a broken down vehicle is causing significant disruptions by partially blocking the carriageway. In Doncaster, the A1M northbound between junction 34 and junction 35 has one lane closed following a multiple vehicle road traffic collision, leading to expected delays. Meanwhile, on the railways, East Midlands railway services are facing disruptions between Nottingham and Grantham and as far as Newark Castle. Cross Country is also reporting major disruptions on services between Oxford and Banbury. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:39. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer sent a known security risk to Washington when he appointed Lord Mandelson as the ambassador to the US. Kemi Badenoch has said the Tory leader is holding an emergency debate in the House of Commons as we speak. Live pictures on your screen there to discuss the disgraced peer being handed the role despite having failed that security vetting. Well, the former Conservative Minister Tobias Ellwood joins me now. Tobias, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. May I start with the sorry spectacle of an emergency debate on the Prime Minister's judgment? And dare I say, Tobias, does this bring back chilling memories for you of the final days of Boris Johnson?
It does indeed, and there's a lot of it's a good place to start because, of course, it was Keir Starmer led the pack on the leader's side. To partly ask questions about what we were doing at the time. But now, of course, the show's on the other. I have to say, I have a lot of time for Solly. I was Foreign Office Minister. I didn't work with him directly, but we crossed paths occasionally. He all came across as sincere, on top of it, brief, particularly, and professional. And we believe that information they now is policy of the process and what's
connection. We're going to try and improve your connection, Tobias. We'll get back to you in a moment. I'm sorry, sir, but the connection is very poor. We're going to try and work on that. Catherine Forster, until we get Tobias Ellwood back up, I wondered if you're looking into the debate there. I'm very, very struck by the fact there's hardly anybody there from the Labour Party. Darren Jones cutting a forlorn figure on the front row. Who's there? It's like tumbleweed good time?
There are not many at all. Carolyn Harris, Welsh MP, Matt Weston, John Trickett, just a few of them. But look at the green benches on the opposition side, and there's dozens of MPs having a very lovely time sticking it to the Prime Minister. But the Labour benches are in a very, very sorry state. And of course, they're looking at a Prime Minister who led them to a huge majority. I mean, you could argue that was more as a result of people wanting the Tories out than any sort of skills of Sir Keir Starmer. But now they're thinking he's become a liability and he's going to cost them their jobs at the next election. And in terms of how long he lasts, I think it is terminal, clearly. I don't think those poll ratings are in any way recoverable. But whether they get rid of him now or a few months down the line, I don't think it is a given that they go now. Labour are terrible at getting rid of leaders. There's local elections around the corner. There is a war on, and they have a big, big problem in who would take his place, because they don't have any better options in terms of the polling at the moment. The one person who would give them a bump, Andy Burnham, doesn't even have a seat.
Just a reminder, this is live pictures from the House of Commons, the emergency debate on the future of Sir Keir Starmer, called by Kemi Badenoch, our political editor Chris Hope. He's inside the chamber. He's trying to grab us MPs to pull outside to get their live reaction, with making sure Chopper stays busy. Don't worry, he's not having the afternoon off. He's in there trying to get people to come out to talk to us about these astonishing scenes. Catherine, quickly back to you. We're waiting to get a better connection with Tobias Elwood. If you're Keir Starmer now, if you're Keir Starmer now and you're his team, what are you doing today? He's been eviscerated by Ollie Robbins. Ollie Robbins was meant to be the fall guy, a bit like Dominic Cummings beforehand in the Boris Johnson regime. He was a civil servant who was thrown under the bus, given a fat cheque, go over there, keep quiet, fait accompli, the Prime Minister lives to fight another day. That didn't happen. This morning, Ollie Robbins basically took the grenade that he'd been handed and threw it straight back to the Prime Minister. It's the Prime Minister now that's on death row. Indeed. It reminds me absolutely of what happened with Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings, in that you get rid of an advisor, and down the line, I mean, in Dominic Cummings' case, it was several months down the line. In this case, it's less than a week after Ollie Robbins was fired, but they give evidence to a parliamentary select committee, and that makes matters a whole lot worse. And what is blowing my mind is why the Prime Minister or people in Number 10 didn't think to stop, before they fired Ollie Robbins last week, of what damage Ollie Robbins could do. I'm thinking particularly apart from the fact that he's basically said that they decided they wanted the appointment and it was clear there was pressure on them to deliver and they weren't really interested in vetting failures. But this Matthew Doyle bombshell, the Director of Communications that we heard from Ollie Robbins, the Foreign Office were asked to find him a plush post as an ambassador. And he, again, is friends with a convicted sex offender. Just been told one of the wizards in my ear, GB News in the gallery, has done a head count of how many Labour MPs are at this. Guess how many Labour MPs are there in total? 25. 25 Labour MPs now, by my arithmetic, as a percentage of their total headcount, 411, just 6.2%. 6.2% of Sir Keir Starmer's MPs have turned up today to defend him. Is that telling? Such a pathetic amount of people have bothered to even turn up to defend their Prime Minister. Catherine Fawcett, is there anything in that? Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, I simply can't remember the last time a Labour MP was positive to me privately about the Prime Minister, because it began well for literally a few weeks, and then at the very beginning with Freebiegate, with the dresses and so on, and the free tickets, it started to go wrong and their popularity fell off a cliff, and it has never recovered. There we go. Keir Starmer nowhere to be seen, perhaps gone into the bunker, hiding away. Just 25 Labour MPs in chamber there, facing a barrage of criticism from their opponents, queuing up to put the boot in. Loads more still to come between now now and 4 p.m, including cabinet rumblings are growing today as Keir Starmer engages in an extraordinary death match with Whitehall over the Mandelson scandal. More reaction next here on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
School uniforms are much more than clothing. They are about signalling a seriousness about learning and behaviour, particularly for older children. I think it is a little bit different with the youngest ones, where we want to encourage them to run around, burn off some energy at break time. But generally, this slide towards casualness in our society. And I think this does reflect that a little bit, that everybody should be comfortable. Comfort and sort of casualness should be the order of the day at all times. And I actually think that there's a time and a place for that. Probably on your sofa at home. It's it's when you're lounging around. But when you're at school, wearing a smarter uniform as you get older in particular does create this air of respecting your environment, respecting yourself, and respecting what you're there to do.
The problem is it cannot be a one-size-fits-all. I went to a boarding school where they had a very traditional uniform, but even I have to concede that the environment in which I was educated, it was conducive to following the rule of law. There was a hierarchical system where there's the headmistress, there's the teacher, there's the academic staff, there's the pastoral staff, and everyone follows the law. That's the way that institution worked. But that governmental system doesn't work with every kind of school. And what you also have to take into account is that listen to educators. They are there with the children 24/7 when they are in school. And this discussion on a flexibility towards uniform is reflected by what is best for the children. You want children to not be lethargic. You want them to not be sedentary. They need to be more active. They have to have the kind of uniform that makes that easier for them because they feel freer in those uniforms.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4. Let's get straight back to my guest now. That's the former Conservative Minister, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, we've established a better connection with you now. Let's go back to that first question. Does this remind you of those fateful days, the final days of Boris Johnson?
Yes, sadly, it does. And guess who was on the front foot there? It was Sir Keir Starmer, putting pressure, quite rightly, under Boris Johnson, asking those questions. And it's those very same questions which are now being directed at Number 10, at the Prime Minister. I do agree with Catherine there. The bandwidth, this is such a massive distraction from what government should be doing at the time. We need our Foreign Office, we need Number 10, we need the Prime Minister focused on the deteriorating, politically escalating picture in the Middle East. And yet here we are focusing on yet another day on what happened to do with the vetting of Peter Mandelson. I'm not surprised so few people are in the chamber as well. I mean, this is real-time politics. Events are moving very, very fast indeed. I would wager that your reporter, Chris Chope, would have a better grasp of where this is heading as we assess the fallout than those actually in the chamber. So there are big, big questions for the Prime Minister now. I mean, why was Sir Ollie Robbins sacked? I think he performed very admirably. He came across as somebody who's professional, committed. I worked with him in parts when I was a Foreign Office Minister, always dedicated to the nation, to doing the right thing. And we've had greater clarity now on that vetting process, the fact that there was good reason why the Prime Minister didn't know. And that's the second big question for Sir Keir Starmer. He came to the chamber yesterday to state, goodness me, nobody told me about it. Nobody's told me that Mandelson had failed the vetting process. Well, nobody was supposed to tell him. Well, who briefed the Prime Minister on the process to say, never before is the Prime Minister in this way kept informed? You find out the last decision. But the biggest point was Mandelson was already approved. He was already on his way to America, but before the vetting process had completed. There was no way you were going to suddenly unpick this because of a result that the Foreign Office might have conjured up. Big questions, therefore, all point to number 10, point to the Prime Minister about his own, not only political judgment in placing Mandelson there in the first place, but in the way that he's decided to try and defend himself and get out of this mess by sacking such a professional, the top person in the Foreign Office.
And Tobias, a crucial point is that I think a lot of people felt or believed that Peter Mandelson had failed the vetting because of his links to Jeffrey Epstein, of course, the paedophile. In actual fact, it seems to be something quite together different and something very, very concerning. Potential links to Vladimir Putin. The fact he was earmarked as somebody who was easy to blackmail and bribe for many years. Links to China. A very, very serious national security risk.
I think this is the big question. You don't need to know all those details, but there's enough out there in the public domain to say, yes, massive red flags, big question marks as to why you'd even entertain the idea of putting Peter Mandelson into the ambassador role in the United States. And that is the judgment question here. It doesn't matter about hiding behind the vetting process. Why on earth consider this person, as you imply, who clearly had connections not just with Russia, but with Chinese companies as well, let alone all the Epstein involvement too. This should have been clearly a no-no situation. And yet, for whatever reasons, perhaps because he was this sort of walk-on-water character in the Labour Party, perhaps something that's not been advanced too much, perhaps there were some connections on the American side too that meant that he was going to get the approval.
OK, Tobias Aylward, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Former Conservative Minister Tobias Aylward, thank you very much. Just a reminder, live pictures on your screen now of that ability debate around Keir Starmer and a very, very forlorn-looking Darren Jones on the front row, sent out to face the music. Another fall guy in the long, long line of fall guys sent to face the music by Sir Keir Starmer, who is nowhere to be seen. His future hanging in the balance. Don't go anywhere. This is GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Plenty more blue skies and dry conditions to come for the rest of this week across much of the UK. Get a bit warmer as well as we head towards the weekend, but there is a chilly wind blowing across the east coast and down towards the southwest as this low pressure nudges in. The isobars just pinching together, getting quite blustery and gusty through the rest of today and overnight across southwest England and South Wales in particular. Brisk breeze blowing along the east coast also, most places just dry and clear, but some low cloud just trickling into northeastern parts of Scotland as we go through the night. So turning a bit misty, a bit murky here. The breeze or the cloud keeping the temperatures up, maybe some pockets of frost across western Scotland where we have the clearest skies and the lightest winds. A brisk breeze then bringing a chill tomorrow morning. It'll look glorious and sunny for most, but that wind will be bringing a cold feel, I suspect, across the southwest of England. A bit more cloud spilling in towards the Isles of Scilly as well. Might be some patchy cloud elsewhere also, but for most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, a blue sky start to Wednesday. Quite drab and grey across Aberdeenshire and up towards Orkney. A lot of mist and low cloud here around the coast, maybe even the odd little bit of drizzle. But for the vast majority, it's dry and most will stay dry through the day. A bit more cloud spilling into the far southwest. Small chance of a shower over the Isles of Scilly, perhaps even into West Cornwall later. Generally just a fine and a sunny day. The wind's making a big difference, feeling pretty chilly on those North Sea coasts and feeling quite fresh with the gusty winds in the southwest. But inland, warmer than today, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 Celsius. But that east coast may stay in single digits. Through Wednesday evening, not a great deal of change. Still the small chance of a shower in southwest England. A bit more cloud spilling into Northern Ireland as well. The east coast susceptible to some low cloud over the next few days, but mostly it stays dry, stays sunny, And it gets a bit warmer too.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A9 northbound at Broxton, a broken vehicle is partially blocking the road. The A55 over Britannia Bridge has a 30 miles per hour limit in both directions until further notice. In Nottingham, the A453 southbound between the A52 and the M1 is sluggish with 10-minute delays. Also on the M1 northbound between junction 8 and 9 in Hertfordshire, a road traffic collision is closing 3 of 4 lanes with 15-minute delays. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway has disruption between Nottingham and Grantham and Newark Castle. While Great Northern has a reduced service at St Neots. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for summer, you could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you all the way through until 6 p.m. Breaking news for you right now. Keir Starmer continues to fight today for his political life as Kemi Badenoch accuses him of disrespecting the House.
The first duty, Mr. Speaker, of any Prime Minister is to keep this country safe. This Prime Minister has put the country's national security at risk. He must take responsibility. It is time for him to go.
Early today, Keir Starmer's fall guy fought back as Sir Ollie Robbins turned from the assassinator to the assassin, firmly putting the blame back in the court of Sir Keir Starmer.
My office, the Foreign Secretary's office, were under constant pressure. The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance.
And next, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage piled on the pressure, claiming he simply does not believe Keir Starmer.
Been a number of red flags all the way along the road. So, no, I don't accept this at all. Even without the official vetting, it was pretty obvious that Mandelson was the wrong candidate for America.
Regarded as forensic in opposition, yesterday Keir Starmer was reduced to a laughingstock in the House of Commons.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
But today, as the pressure continues to mount, will the last laugh now be on the Prime Minister? How much longer can Keir Starmer keep on hanging on?
Bless you, darling Mama. You remain forever in our hearts and prayers.
And the late, great Queen Elizabeth II would have celebrated her 100th birthday today. In a video message, King Charles today claimed that his mom would have been deeply troubled by the world that we now live in. Today, I'll ask the question, is the sun setting on Rule Britannia? Precisely what went wrong and when? And who can be blamed? But still, can Rule Britannia still be saved?
Government, they passed legislation which was struck down, leaving our veterans utterly exposed. We're putting in place proper measures to protect them.
And deeply concerning reports have suggested that SAS soldiers are now resigning over fears that they'll be subjected to war crime witch hunts by human rights lawyers. So has this put our national security at risk? And the Liverpool Council has sent antisocial yobs flying off the handle by blasting classical music from lampposts to disperse them. Woke critics have slammed the council as being elitist, but is their bog worse than their bite? That music there fiddling away while Rome burned, perhaps an apt metaphor for what appears to be going on today in the House of Commons. Our man Chris Hope is inside the chamber grabbing politicians to get them out to speak to us. Astonishing scenes earlier on today. Sir Robbins laying into Sir Keir Starmer, the fall guy refusing to simply take it lying down, fought back, put the grenade firmly back into Keir Starmer's pocket. As that ticks away to Prime Minister's Questions Time tomorrow at midday. How long has the Prime Minister got? Will it be hours, days, weeks, months? How long can this premiership limp on? Today, only 25 Labour MPs bothering to even turn up to defend their Premier. Just 6% of Labour parliamentarians turning out to protect their PM, perhaps in very real fear that they might be the next fall guy. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens. But alas, here's your headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Well, the Mandelson row is deepening. Kemi Badenoch, Conservative leader, has called for a vote of no confidence in Sir Keir Starmer, saying to MPs in the Commons it is time for him to go.
The Prime Minister has let the country down, he's let Parliament down, and he's also let the Labour Party down. It is clear to everyone, except the Prime Minister himself, that he has failed on his own terms. It is clear to the public that he is failing at the job. It is clear to civil servants that he is throwing them under the bus, and it is clear to members across this House that he is not fit to lead.
Well, it follows evidence from former top civil servant Ollie Robbins, who told MPs today that there was an atmosphere of pressure around the vetting process.
I'm afraid what that translated into for my team in the Foreign Office, and certainly the handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post, was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard. Because the vetting process is not there to determine fitness for office or reputational risk, it's there to protect national security.
Downing Street, though, rejects those claims, insisting there was no pressure and no dismissive approach. Opposition figures, though, say serious questions remain. Conservatives' James Cleverly says more should have been done to scrutinise the appointment of Mandelson.
But particularly if I were appointing Peter Mandelson, who has a history of scandal, I would have asked. I would have said, what's happened to the vetting? Is everything okay? Has he got the green light? I need to know, particularly as there was media speculation There was press reporting that he had failed vetting. And if I'd seen those reports, I would have demanded to know what had happened. And so to claim that neither the Foreign Secretary nor indeed the Prime Minister even bothered to ask is absolutely unbelievable.
And Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has also weighed in today, saying the Prime Minister should have known the risks.
He may not have been told by Ollie Robbins specifically about the failure of vetting, but the other things that Robbins said were damning. Namely, that the appointment was made before vetting had been carried out and against the advice of the Cabinet Secretary, and that there'd been a number of red flags all the way along the road. So, no, I don't accept this at all. Even without the official vetting, it was pretty obvious that Mandelson was the wrong candidate for America.
In other news this hour, the Prime Minister has said there will be an unrelenting fight against anti-Semitism, warning those responsible will face the full force of the law. His comments follow the arrest of 7 more people today over a series of suspected arson attacks targeting Jewish sites in London. Counter-terror police say the suspects were detained over the past 48 hours in connection with an alleged plot to carry out a further attack. The arrests follow a number of other incidents since March, including attacks on synagogues, community buildings and Jewish ambulances, as well as a drone flown near the Israeli embassy. More than 20 people have now been arrested as part of the investigation, and police say they are also looking into whether individuals may have been paid to carry out the attacks. That comes as a 17-year-old boy has pleaded guilty to another arson attack after an attack on a synagogue in northwest London. The teenager from Brent admitted arson at Westminster Magistrates Court after a bottle containing liquid was set alight and thrown into Kenton United Synagogue in Harrow. There were no injuries and only minor damage was caused. The boy has been released on bail with strict conditions, including not entering any synagogue. Police say they are still searching for 2 other suspects. Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is unlikely to be extended as the deadline approaches tomorrow. The US president says he's ready to resume strikes if talks fail and warned the military is raring to go. But he insists the US is still in a strong negotiating position and expects to secure what he calls a great deal. Meanwhile, Iran's parliamentary speaker has said Tehran is preparing new options on the battlefield if fighting resumes. And a second round of talks in Pakistan at this stage remain uncertain, with US Vice President J.D. Vance expected to travel there but not confirmed in agreement with Iran. And the UK's unemployment rate has unexpectedly fallen to 4.9%. But the drop is being driven largely by more people, particularly students, not actively looking for work. Wage growth has also slowed to its weakest level in over 3 years, although pay is still rising faster than inflation. Economists are warning, though, the picture could worsen in the coming months as rising energy costs linked to the Iran conflict begin to feed through to the market of jobs. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you, I think, in half an hour. We'll find out what else happens in the news agenda. But first, let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
10 minutes past 4, the markets for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.3502 and €1.1482. The price of gold is £3,548, 10 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,625 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Breaking news this hour. Keir Starmer sent a known security risk to Washington when he appointed Lord Mandelson as the ambassador to the United States. Kemi Badenoch has said today the Tory leader is holding an emergency debate in the Commons right now. As you can see, there is Danny Kruger from Reform UK presently speaking. That debate, of course, is to discuss the disgraced peer being handed the role despite having failed the security vetting. Let's cross straight now to GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, has just come out of the chamber from that historic debate. Chris Hope, I've got to say, a feeble amount of Labour parliamentarians there, just 25 that I can count, 6%. I've seen more people at my daughter's football match.
Yes, of course, Labour MPs won't want to support this motion. It was forced on the government by the Tories, so they don't want to cooperate. I saw 25 MPs from my place in the press gallery. More than that on the opposition benches, because they were there. Kevin Badenoch's there all the time, heckling, shouting back at Labour as they try and speak. Later on, we'll hear from a Labour minister, possibly Darren Jones, who was there at the beginning, and he's the Chief Secretary of the Prime Minister. But a day of deep embarrassment, I think, for this government. Yesterday, of course, we heard from the Prime Minister. He gave his side of what happened. I was on here on College Green talking about that, of the appointment of Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador to America. But that's really been undermined in quite serious ways by Ollie Robbins, who is this apparently a fair-dealing civil servant, someone who's found himself caught up in the political machinations. And he said that no, you're wrong, essentially, Prime Minister. Peter Mandelson wasn't rejected for any kind of developed vetting. They leant against giving it to him, but they worked out a way of mitigating it using various ways of keeping information away from him. MI5, MI6, they didn't mind him getting that role. He was having access to top-level intelligence, but they'd have managed that very carefully inside the Foreign Office. When he came in the very early part of last year, he said the position was on its way to being filled. The King had said yes. The PM had said yes, hadn't mentioned subject to developed vetting. He simply tried to do what he thought his masters wanted. He couldn't pass on.
I'm not sure that the House thinks that we got a clear answer from
Ollie Robbins, for a lot of Brexiteers, who was the enemy who tried to deliver a very weakened Brexit in 2017, and now he's the kind of hero figure standing up against bullying by Downing Street despite losing his job. And of course back then, in 2017, you could argue he was doing the job that Theresa May asked of him. He's simply doing his best and serving his country. And at the end, Ollie Robbins said this: I don't fully understand the position I'm in. I'm desperately, desperately sad, he said. I love my job. I was proud to do it for my country. And also, Martin, we've heard today from Ollie Robbins about Matthew Doyle. He, of course, is formerly a Labour peer, now independent. He was the Director of Communications about a year ago for the Prime Minister. It turns out that behind the back of David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, according to Ollie Robbins, they're trying to get him a job maybe as a next ambassador somewhere in the Foreign Office. And of course, when he was vetted or emerged late last year that he had been campaigning for an individual who was found guilty of looking at sexualised images of children in Scotland, and he lost a whip there, and I think was big issues there for him with the Labour Party. So huge concerns here, I think, about what's happening here. A good man appears to be being chucked overboard to save the PM's skin.
And Chris, is that the point? Is Sir Ollie Robbins simply a fall guy too far? The modus operandi of this government is just to throw the bodies overboard every time something goes wrong. So Ollie Robbins came across as a respectable, decent man who just did his job. He was no doubt expected just to take the bullet, take the check, go away and be quiet. He didn't do that today. He's thrown the hand grenade straight back towards Keir Starmer. Now, all eyes on PMQs. Chris Hope, can Keir Starmer survive this latest scandal?
I would have said yes yesterday. I'm not sure today. That's where I am, Martin. I still think he'll see out the year as Prime Minister. I think it takes him quite a while to remove these PMs, particularly with the scale of majority he won back in July 2024. But I think there'll be a drip of information. And look at what Ollie Robbins said today. When he got in, yes, there was no pressure from PM personally, but the private office in Downing Street was calling his office, saying things like, where are we on this? Can you do this? Can you get on with it? His predecessor was told to effing well, get this sorted out. I mean, lots of aggression pushing from 10 Downing Street. There'll be a log of every single phone call, WhatsApp, email from Downing Street. It's very clear, according to Ollie Robbins, that pressure is being exerted on the Foreign Office to get that Mandelson appointment over the line. They did that, and now he's carried the can, and he's not happy. And I think he's got a lot of the sympathy, frankly, from a lot of witnesses, judging by coverage this afternoon.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much for joining us live from College Green outside the House of Parliament. Get inside there, Chief. Drag some MPs out. Get them on camera for us. Let's see what they've got to say about what is quite frankly now an astonishing debate. Just 25 Labour MPs have even bothered to turn up to support their Prime Minister. It's incredible. Just 6% of Labour parliamentarians can even go into bat for their man today. What's that tell you? Well, let's cross now to Jonathan Haslam, who's a former number 10 Director of Communications. Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to have your esteemed company. You've advised Prime Ministers, most notably, of course, John Major. If you're advising Sir Keir Starmer today, what would you tell him?
Well, I think that comes under the heading, Martin, of Mission Impossible. He's got himself into a dreadful state. And where we are is, I think that the Labour Party is not going to move against him at the moment. That would be madness. They will certainly want to hang the May elections around his neck when they get the expected drubbing, and the time of his time in office seems to be running out. So he's in a bit of a state here. And the real questions, and Chris Hope has identified some of them, that are coming forward really are around judgment and lack of curiosity, and who was running the office of Prime Minister. It seems like it was more Morgan McSweeney than it was Keir himself. So I'm looking particularly at the issue where Simon Case, the former Cabinet Secretary, wrote to him and set out the procedure for appointing a non-civil servant to this vitally important post, all of which seems to have been roundly ignored or forgotten by Keir Starmer. So he's got culpability in that regard. And for somebody who should understand and works closely with process, he doesn't seem to have got the point. And there's a very clear point that actually the enhanced vetting doesn't give you a black and white answer. It gives you an appreciation. And it is then for the line manager, in this case, Ollie Robbins, to make the final determination about having heard all of the evidence and got the recommendation about where it would go. And he said it was a nuanced recommendation. Was he able to accede to the Prime Minister's wishes, i.e. to appoint Mandelson, by putting in mitigating factors? And he clearly found a way of doing that. So the questions of judgment and capability for Keir Starmer keep on coming back. And most particularly, how at this incredibly high-profile post, you could say he was appointing the man without going through these processes.
Jonathan, I'd like to play you a clip now from yesterday in Chamber. I think a clip that's impacted a lot of people. Sir Keir Starmer is a man who's built his entire life, his entire reputation on being taken seriously. The son of a toolmaker, how many times do we hear that? Who demanded to be taken seriously. Yesterday, reduced to a laughingstock in the House of Commons. Let's take a look.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
Jonathan, the reason I wanted to play that to you, as a Director of Communications, when you sit down with the Prime Minister and you look at that and you say, boss, this isn't going well. People are laughing at you. You know, is it time here to maybe consider your position?
Yeah, well, the answer to that is no, it's impossible politically to consider your position. They're up against a rock and a hard place. I winced when I saw that phrase. And whoever was writing it needed to go in front of a mirror and say it and say, what reaction are you going to get? And there are enough wordsmiths in Downing Street to come up with a better phrase. I know they'll find it incredible. Yes, of course they would. But it invites a laugh. And when you have a Prime Minister who becomes a laughingstock, that is pretty much the end of the road for that Prime Minister.
If you had to place your thumb over this, you know, in your huge experience, Jonathan Haslam, how long do you think this Prime Minister has left?
I think it's going to run as pretty much a lame duck administration well into the year. There aren't the people advancing their cause pretty much at the moment. Angela Rayner isn't clear. We don't have Andy Burnham clear. He hasn't got a seat. And we've got to remember that the Labour Party is so many different factions, and it's very hard to find a single candidate who's going to take things on. You could think perhaps of a Pat McFadden or a John Healey as a sort of an interim, safe figures. But although I have high regard for their capabilities, they're not what you call pretty much telegenic. And I say that self-deprecatingly. I'm not telegenic myself. So I do understand that in terms of being acceptable to the great British public, I can't get excited about either of them. So Wed Streeting for me would be the one who actually communicates best with the British public, but maybe his ambition gets ahead of him with all the Labour Party factions.
OK, thank you for your experience and your time today. Hugely appreciated. Jonathan Hasselden, the former number 10 Director of Communications, to John Major. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, we've got some breaking news for you now on the channel, and it's this. A teenage boy has pleaded guilty to arson following an attack on a north-west London synagogue on Saturday night. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by our Homeland Security Editor, Mark White, to bring us fully up to speed. Mark, tell us all about it.
Well, this teenager was one of two males who were arrested yesterday, a 17 and a 19-year-old. He appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court today and admitted a charge of arson, a charge that he threw a petrol bomb through a window of the Kenton United Synagogue building in Harrow in northwest London over the weekend. Thankfully, that didn't fully ignite, caused some weight of attacks against Jewish-related synagogues and properties in the North London area. There's a massive police investigation that's being coordinated by Counter-Terror Command. So far, more than 20 people have now been arrested in connection with that. As I say, this 17-year-old and a 19-year-old arrested yesterday. The 19-year-old has been released on bail pending further investigations. The 17-year-old has also been granted bail now, having pleaded guilty to arson without danger to life. He's not been named because he's only 17, but we're told that he is a British national from the Brent area of North London.
Mark White, obviously this is a live case, so putting this one to one side, we are seeing more and more of these types of incidents across London, particularly Golders Green, Finchley, and also across Manchester and Birmingham. In fact, the government spent £5 million on additional foot patrols in those areas just 2 weeks ago. There does seem to be the rising spectre of anti-Semitism once again.
There's no doubt about it. Anti-Semitic abuse and attacks have been on the rise ever since the 7th of October terrorist attacks in Israel. And, of course, the most serious have happened this year with that attack on the synagogue in Manchester, which claimed a life. Of course, the attacker died as well, shot dead by police. And then you had that horrific incident where the volunteer ambulance depot in Golders Green in North London was attacked and 4 ambulances were destroyed or badly damaged. And then just in the last 10 days or so, this spate of other incidents, which has very significantly, of course, concerned the Jewish community, but also the police are very concerned about what may be playing out here. They are looking at the potential for this being linked to Iran, that it could be Iran behind or motivating these attacks, paying proxies effectively, people not related to Iran as such, but who are paid to go on their behalf and carry out the attacks. That's a line of inquiry. But as I say, it's still a very much a live investigation with so far more than 20 people having been arrested.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, bringing us up to speed there about that arson attack on a northwest London synagogue on Saturday night. More on that later in the show. Thank you, Mark White. Now, next, on what would have been Her Majesty's 100th birthday, we'll reflect on King Charles's video message as he says that the late Queen Elizabeth II would be upset with the world today. Is the sun setting on Rule Britannia? Who's to blame? What can be done about it? That's next here on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 4:29. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 100 years ago today, the magnificent, the late, great Queen Elizabeth II was born. In a video message, King Charles today claimed his mom would have been deeply troubled by the world we live in now. Well, let's speak to GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, welcome to the show. First of all, majestic. Happy birthday to the late Queen Elizabeth. I've got two portraits of her at my home. I gave them both a little kiss on my way out today.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin, and a very poignant speech by His Majesty the King this morning, as you say, talking about perhaps the late Queen be deeply troubled by the world we live in today, but also paid tribute to something else that the late Queen said during her life when she was just a princess, aged 15, and that is that, you know, there will be a better tomorrow, and that is perhaps the point of the King's message. But today was all about paying tribute to the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II on what would have been her 100th birthday. So at the British Museum today, he and Her Majesty the Queen, as in Queen Camilla we're talking about here, visited alongside a couple of other working royals the British Museum to view the final design for the national memorial that's going to be erected for the late Queen in St James's Park, just down the road here from where I am at Buckingham Palace, featuring a bronze statue of her wearing her garter robes, and then on the other side of St James's Park, tied together with a brand new bridge which is going to look like, we think, her wedding tiara that she wore in 1947, will be another statue of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, her late husband, wearing naval uniform. Now, there's a little bit of an upset that's been brewing on mainly Twitter, but perhaps more broadly as well, because one of the proposed designs featured the late Queen riding a horse overlooking the Mall, and that does not feature in the final design. However, the King did say the final design earlier today looks fantastic. And then this afternoon, I was in Buckingham Palace actually with most working members of the royal family for a very special reception in the marble corridor. There was a Daubney cocktail for the guests, which tasted very nice, I hasten to add, which was the late Queen's favourite drink, a gin and Daubney cocktail. And the King also presented 100th birthday cards to 3 centenarians, if I've pronounced that correctly, John, Mary and Joan, who turned 100 today, the same day that Queen Elizabeth II would have turned 100. So the King presenting them with birthday cards, a cake was cut. Those 3 also got to meet the Prince and Princess of Wales, Princess Anne, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. We even had the Duke of Kent and Princess Alexandra there inside Buckingham Palace. And there was a group photograph taken in the Bow Room earlier today with all the working members of the royal family, apart from Tim Lawrence, who I'm told had other commitments today, so he couldn't be here. But it was really perhaps a poignant tribute, and the King rallying together or convening all working royals to pay a special tribute to Her Majesty the Queen. There was also representatives from the various charities that she was patron of throughout her life. So it really has been, let's say, bittersweet, poignant celebration of the Queen's life and legacy.
Cameron Walker, you've got the best seat in the house there outside Buckingham Palace, having taken on board one of the Queen's favourite cocktails. Not at all jealous. Well, of course, what a bittersweet occasion. A lot of people, no doubt, watching the show will give their everything to hear the Queen just say 1 is 100. Rest in peace, Her Majesty, and a day to celebrate. Cameron Walker, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us there live from Buckingham Palace. Let's have a conversation now, though, about that video. Is it true that Her Majesty would be deeply concerned about the state of the nation now? I'm delighted to be joined by the royal historian, the broadcaster, Rafe Hadel-Manku. Rafe, welcome to the show. It's always an absolute pleasure to have your company. First of all, no doubt you are, as I am, very emotional. Now, I deeply, deeply miss Queen Elizabeth. I sincerely do. In fact, sometimes, you know, I get quite morose about the fact that perhaps our greatest ever royal is no longer with us.
Yes, undoubtedly the Queen was the greatest asset to the monarchy, but also central to our life in many ways, because of course we tend to view history in terms of centuries, and the Queen Mother's life was actually, it was almost a century, and she brought us closer to the Second World War. While she was still alive, the World War was still part of our lives, the Great Depression was, and of course she's been the transformation out of empire and so forth. She's remained the one constant in our life, and for millions of us, that gave us some degree of comfort and hope.
And Rafe, that brings us to the next phase of this conversation today. King Charles has released that video message saying that the late Her Majesty would be deeply concerned, deeply troubled by the world we now live in. And I no doubt think King Charles maybe meant things like climate change or global asylum. But actually, I wonder, Rafe, if you and I could have a conversation about the state of our nation, the state of the monarchy, the state of what our country has become. You talk about that continuity from the past to the present. There's been a feeling that the country has changed very quickly, very rapidly, in a way that many people find slightly disconcerting.
Yes, I mean, the Queen herself didn't shy away from making similar sorts of statements in her Christmas message, which of course she and her staff wrote. Could have been a reference to the Ukraine war, conflict on the continent of Europe, the states of course, war globally in the Middle East, Iran, Israel. We don't know exactly what, of course, His Majesty was referring to in terms of the international scene, but undoubtedly life in Britain is hugely different, certainly from the Britain that the Queen grew up in. It's often said, actually, and I forget who the philosopher was who said it, but the world that existed when you were 21 years of age is the world that seems normal to us all, and it's the world we all long for. Well, the Britain of when Queen Elizabeth was 21, that was in 1947, and April the 21st, 1947 is when the Queen made that great speech in South Africa, dedicating herself to Britain and the Empire. But the world of 2022, when she died, or indeed of today in 2026, is vastly different. it's unrecognizable. We have social tensions as we've never seen them before in this country. We've had the importation into this country of vast numbers of culturally incompatible people for whom the monarchy means nothing, actually. And if you look at polling, the two biggest threats for the monarchy are the youth and the immigrant population. Both of those groups have the lowest levels of support for the monarchy. For example, amongst our youth, for the first time in history, the youth of this country, more of them support a republic than support a monarchy. We have never seen that before amongst the youth. That's, of course, because of the indoctrination that they're getting through our education system, both at school and at universities and elsewhere. We have the most radically left-wing youth, which closely mirrors the rise of left-wing teachers as well, whereas the older population still haven't actually changed in their support for the monarchy. So amongst those who are over 30 or 40, support for the monarchy remains at a constant. So there are challenges, but they're coming from new forces, and the monarchy and government and us, we all need to find ways to address that.
You know, Rafe, one thing that I'm always struck by is that we all used to rally around common denominators, be it the crown, be it God, be it the flag. Think today, if Her Majesty had survived and had turned 100, think about what the streets of Britain would look like, festooned with Union flags, you know, festooned with the majestic pride in our nation. And yet today we see councils around the country taking flags down. Something's changed. It's not just the crown.
And it's very dangerous as well, because one of the downsides of having the world's oldest, longest, continuous, unbroken constitution is that in this country, we don't have a national day of celebration, which is normally a revolution or an Independence Day, like the French have on July the 14th or the Americans on July the 4th. So for us, it's the monarchy that is supposed to provide those great moments when the nation comes together around coronations, royal weddings, jubilees, royal births, those sorts of things. And for people to lose faith and trust in the institution of the monarchy is very serious on those grounds. But of course, there's been a long war of attrition against anything to do with pride in Britain, pride in the nation. On Thursday, we have St. George's Day. Now, if you wave the Scottish flag or the Welsh flag, it's celebrated and called progressive nationalism. You wave St. George's Cross, it's somehow racist. There is a complete war of attrition. There has been a long march through all our institutions. I would say also you can see elements of it in the decision not to have the Queen on a horse for the new Elizabeth Memorial. We're run by people who don't understand the importance of patriotism and of inspiring the nation. Okay. And we have a group of people running our institutions who have no ambition to actually celebrate and promote the very best.
Rafe, I'm being told we have to move on. I could talk to you about the Queen until Christmas. Unfortunately, that's not permissible. I miss Her Majesty the Queen. God bless you, Elizabeth, and may you rest in peace. Deeply missed today. Rafe Hadelmenku, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. Loads more still to come between now and 5 p.m, including Cabinet's rumblings are growing today as Keir Starmer engages in an extraordinary death match with Whitehall over the Peter Mandelson scandal. We'll be live from the Commons. That's next.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Plenty more blue skies and dry conditions to come for the rest of this week across much of the UK. Get a bit warmer as well as we head towards the weekend, but there is a chilly wind blowing across the east coast and down towards the southwest as this low pressure nudges in. The isobars just pinching together, getting quite blustery and gusty through the rest of today and overnight across southwest England and South Wales in particular. Brisk breeze blowing along the east coast also, most places just dry and clear, but some low cloud just trickling into northeastern parts of Scotland as we go through the night. So turning a bit misty, a bit murky here. The breeze or the cloud keeping the temperatures up, maybe some pockets of frost across western Scotland where we have the clearest skies and the lightest winds. A brisk breeze then bringing a chill tomorrow morning. It'll look glorious and sunny for most, but that wind will be bringing a cold feel, I suspect, across the southwest of England. A bit more cloud spilling in towards the Isles of Scilly as well. Might be some patchy cloud elsewhere also, but for most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, western Scotland, a blue sky start to Wednesday. Quite drab and grey across Aberdeenshire and up towards Orkney. A lot of mist and low cloud here around the coast, maybe even the odd little bit of drizzle. But for the vast majority, it's dry and most will stay dry through the day. A bit more cloud spilling into the far southwest. Small chance of a shower over the Isles of Scilly, perhaps even into West Cornwall later. Generally just a fine and a sunny day. The wind's making a big difference, feeling pretty chilly on those North Sea coasts and feeling quite fresh with the gusty winds in the southwest. But inland, warmer than today, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 Celsius. But that east coast may stay in single digits. Through Wednesday evening, not a great deal of change. Still the small chance of a shower in southwest England. A bit more cloud spilling into Northern Ireland as well. The east coast susceptible to some low cloud over the next few days, but mostly it stays dry, stays sunny, and it gets a bit warmer too.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M25 anti-clockwise, there are 2 lanes closed between Junction 7 and Junction 6 in Surrey after a road traffic collision, with recovery expected after 5 this evening. On the M62 westbound between Junction 12 and Junction 11 near Salford, police are dealing with an incident and 1 lane is shut, with delays easing after 5. In Wales, the A470 northbound from Corriton to Nantgarv is congested. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has minor delays, and East Midlands Railway reports disruption between Nottingham and Grantham and Newark Castle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 4:40. Welcome back. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Keir Starmer continues to fight for his political life today. There's an emergency debate in the Commons as we speak. Our man Chris Hope has been in there. Chris Hope, welcome back to the show. Only 25 Labour MPs bothered to even turn out to fight for their man, Sir Keir Starmer. Rarer than migratory birds. Chris, have you managed to snag one for us?
Martin, the answer is not yet, and I've been asked here, I've talked to several MPs just now in the Commons, and they've been told not to speak to us. It seems that the party, maybe informally, not formally, but in some way, Labour MPs are not wanting to engage with us. One Labour MP told me they felt this was very much like the Boris Johnson days. The difference with Boris Johnson was there were a number of Tory MPs who could replace him. There's no obvious person to replace Keir Starmer, but it does feel extraordinary to say so. They feel that this is the end of days of Keir Starmer, and that will play out in coming months. But somebody who knows all about the end of days of a Prime Minister is Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, and he joins me now. Sir Geoffrey, you, of course, you are chair on the board of the 22 Committee, Treasurer since 2017. You've overseen all the chaos of leadership under the last Tory governments. Do you see any comparisons and parallels with this?
Yes, very much so. This is sort of beginning to build up. It's the sort of lull before the storm. It's obvious that something was going to happen, and then, of course, Boris eventually had to fall on his sword and go. I don't think Keir will go immediately, but I think if they get really as bad a result in the local government elections as everybody is predicting, they will use this as the excuse, his actions over this Mandelson affair, as the reason why he's got to go.
I was watching all the MPs yesterday from my position above your benches in the Commons. They looked very, very depressed, arms folded, grim-faced, half-hearted cheers to the Prime Minister. Many left while he was still trying to defend himself under the Tory Lib Dem reform attacks. It didn't feel great for the PM yesterday.
No, I agree with that entirely. And I think it's this. The issue is this, really. On the 12th of September last year, the well-known journalist David Maddox approached Number 10 to ask about this story that Mandelson had failed his positive vetting. So Number 10 at that point, their press office knew that this had happened. Yeah. And yet why didn't they transcribe that to Starmer? Why didn't Starmer know? Or did he know, in which case he's misled Parliament? Either it's incompetence or he's misled Parliament, one or the other.
Well, let's get to talk about Ollie Robbins. He, of course, was the Permanent Secretary in the Foreign Office. He said there was relentless pressure, repeated, insistent pressure from the private office in 10 Downing Street onto his to the appointment of Peter Mandelson. And he said that pressure must have come from somewhere. Where do you think it came from?
Well, there's only one man it could have come from, and that's the Prime Minister. Now, I know Ollie Robbins quite well. He's appeared before my Public Accounts Committee. To my mind, he's a man of integrity. He will do what is the right thing to do. And I think that what happened is if you put somebody through positive vetting, you've got to expect that if they don't pass, and lots of people don't pass, then they shouldn't be appointed. And I think this whole disconnect between the positive vetting and the Prime Minister knowing about it, in fact, the Prime Minister, of course, knew a lot already before the positive vetting started. They knew about all his links to China and Russia. They knew about the fact that he'd been passing confidential information to Epstein, irrespective of occupying the house while Epstein was in jail for child sex trafficking. So there was more than enough to question, for the Prime Minister to question the judgment of this appointment, and yet he still went ahead anyway.
But they thought it was a risk worth taking, didn't they? And now it looks like it's detonating under the actual premiership of the PM himself. MPs, there's a debate going on right now, forced by your party, the Tories. That could cause real problems for Keir Starmer. There's more to come. There'll be a paper trail of phone calls, emails, WhatsApp, messages from Number 10 pressuring the Foreign Office to act. That information will come out, I guess.
Well, so Kemi Badenoch very cleverly laid down this loyal address which calls for production of these papers, and it was that process that got Cat Little and Antonio Romeo actually calling for those papers. Eventually they got them, and they discovered that he'd failed the positive vetting, and they then went to the Prime Minister, but far too late.
If I can ask you the last question, Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, you've run leadership elections, you've seen Tory PMs come and go. How long has Keir Starmer got?
I'd be very surprised if he's still there by the end of the year.
So Geoffrey Clifton-Brown there, a veteran, I think, of seeing PMs come and go. He says this PM is out by the year end.
Superb stuff there. Chopper live from College Green. We'll get back to you at the top of the next hour. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, coming next, SAS soldiers resign over war crime witch hunts. That's next on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But in the meantime, a Welsh secondary school is scrapping skirts in the name of equality, with all pupils now required to wear trousers.
They say it saves money and reflects modern values, but some parents call it wasteful, sparking a wider row over gender-neutral uniforms in schools.
Well, in a letter announcing the decision to parents, the school said, a single streamlined uniform reduces pressure on families, removes unnecessary distractions and ensures every pupil can feel comfortable and confident. This is a positive step forward for Brian Tegg, the school. Simpler for parents and carers, more practical for pupils and fully in keeping with inclusive values we stand for.
Oh, just stick your inclusivity, will you? If a girl wants to wear a skirt, or a boy wants to wear a skirt for school, let them.
Right, this is the thing.
What's wrong with it?
This is, the thing, they're making this sound like it's a step forward for equality. Girls weren't forbidden from wearing trousers. No. Girls were allowed to wear trousers. Girls had a choice. In the world I grew up in, choice is a good thing.
Ah, not if you're a girl. This is where you went wrong, because you are a boy.
Am I?
So, yeah, well...
Wow. Well, does Keir Starmer think?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
We know what Keir Starmer thinks. But basically, this is done in the name of equality for young women by taking away their right to wear a skirt.
It's completely nuts.
How does that make sense?
The equal thing here is to allow the girls, frankly, all the pupils, to choose. Well, there are no words for this. I don't understand how this is supposed to help anyone. It's going against tradition as well, which is not particularly good.
This is Good Afternoon, Britain. It's GB News.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Special Air Service soldiers are resigning in significant numbers over fears that they'll be subjected to so-called witch hunts by human rights lawyers. So let's now speak with the former SAS commanding officer, Matthew Hellier. Matthew, it's always an absolute pleasure to have your company. A deeply, deeply concerning situation over these months and years. We've seen this story just simply escalate, but never have we got to the point where SAS operatives, the most regarded, the most feared, the most respected operatives on the planet, are walking away.
100%. It's really concerning. We've just found out that the article in the Telegraph put out that there was over 120 Special Forces soldiers that have resigned because of the prosecutions. You know, we are facing, as a Special Forces community, over 242 prosecutions, of which a lot of those guys and girls are still serving. It's not just because of the prosecutions. You know, our Special Forces are undermanned and under-supported. We've had this Labour government put taxation on death in service payments. We've seen the investment in the military at an all-time low, and the figures just don't add up. We can't support our British nationals in foreign countries. And now we have this constant witch hunt of Special Forces soldiers, dating over 40 years to the present day.
You know, Matt, it seems almost inconceivable to me as a mere layman that the prospect that you boys would lay down arms, but as an SAS man yourself, did you ever think it would get to this stage?
Never. It's at an all-time low. Morale in Hereford and Paul is just, it's terrible. The soldiers don't want to serve anymore. They're looking for other employment. They need pensions to support their families, and they just don't want to be prosecuted and chased through the courts by human rights lawyers. You know, the solution is pretty simple. And speaking to the other political parties and you know, Reform and other parties such as that, we're going to stop the prosecutions. We're going to come out of the ECHR. It's not just vexatious prosecutions, it's all prosecutions. Stop the prosecutions. Show our soldiers the respect. Give them the justification that they deserve. They fought in war zones. They followed the rules of engagement. And now they're getting prosecuted for it.
You know, Matt, we've got a quick 45 seconds. We're hearing a lot today about national security with Peter Mandelson and Sir Keir Starmer, but if SAS are downing tools, that's a serious national security issue.
Serious. You think 120 soldiers resigning now, that's 2 squadrons of Special Air Service soldiers. Who looks after us in our counter-terrorist role? Not just CO-19, it's also the Special Air Service and Paul, Special Boat Service. If those guys are resigning, getting out in droves, this country is at an all-time low. We are severely at threat from all of the terrorists, everything that's against us. We need to support our guys, not get them sacked and get them resigning.
Well, Matthew Hellier, thank you for joining us today, and as ever, thank you for your service. A very, very concerning story. Thank you, my friend, for joining us on the show today. An absolute pleasure. Now, in response to that story, an MOD spokesman has told GB News this: "We are committed to ensuring that the legal framework governing our armed forces reflects the practical realities of military operations and that those who served with honour are properly protected." Now, coming up next, Keir Starmer continues to fight for his political life today. A debate in chamber. Only 25 of his own MPs even bothered to turn up to protect their man. Is Keir Starmer seriously in trouble? That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Plenty more blue skies and dry conditions to come for the rest of this week across much of the UK. Get a bit warmer as well as we head towards the weekend, but there is a chilly wind blowing across the east coast and down towards the southwest as this low pressure nudges in. The isobars just pinching together, getting quite blustery and gusty through the rest of today and overnight across southwest England and South Wales in particular. Brisk breeze blowing along the east coast also, most places just dry and clear, but some low cloud just trickling into northeastern parts of Scotland as we go through the night. So turning a bit misty, a bit murky here. The breeze or the cloud keeping the temperatures up, maybe some pockets of frost across western Scotland where we have the clearest skies and the lightest winds. A brisk breeze then bringing a chill tomorrow morning. It'll look glorious and sunny for most, but that wind will be bringing a cold feel, I suspect, across the southwest of England. A bit more cloud spilling in towards the Isles of Scilly as well. Might be some patchy cloud elsewhere. Most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland. A blue sky start to Wednesday. Quite drab and grey across Aberdeenshire and up towards Orkney. A lot of mist and low cloud here around the coast. Maybe even the odd little bit of drizzle. But for the vast majority, it's dry and most will stay dry through the day. A bit more cloud spilling into the far southwest. Small chance of a shower over the Isles of Scilly, perhaps even into West Cornwall later. Generally just a fine and a sunny day. The wind's making a big difference, feeling pretty chilly on those North Sea coasts and feeling quite fresh with the gusty winds in the southwest. But inland, warmer than today, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 Celsius. But that east coast may stay in single digits. Through Wednesday evening, not a great deal of change. Still the small chance of a shower in southwest England. A bit more cloud spilling into Northern Ireland as well. The east coast susceptible to some low cloud over the next few days, but mostly it stays dry, stays sunny, and it gets a bit warmer too.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A470 northbound is slow from Corryton to Nantgarv with heavy congestion. In Durham, the A19 southbound between the A182 and the A1086 has a traffic collision, with one lane closed and delays of around 50 minutes. In Warwickshire, the M42 northbound between Junction 7A and Junction 8 has planned road management with one of 3 lanes shut. Also, 3 lanes are restricted southbound in a separate incident. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is disrupted between Wigan North Western and Preston, while Great Northern has a reduced service at St Neots. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live until 6 p.m. Got a cracking show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story, of course. Sir Keir Starmer today continues to fight for his political life as Kemi Badenoch accuses him of disrespecting the House.
The first duty, Mr. Speaker, of any Prime Minister is to keep this country safe. This Prime Minister has put the country's national security at risk. He must take responsibility. It is time for him to go.
Earlier today, the fall guy fought back as Sir Ollie Robbins turned from the assassinator to the assassin, firmly putting the blame back in the court of Sir Keir Starmer.
My office, the Foreign Secretary's office, were under constant pressure. The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance.
Well, yesterday, Lee Anderson was kicked out of the chamber for accusing Sir Keir Starmer of being a liar. And today, Nigel Farage piled on the pressure, claiming he simply does not believe Sir Keir Starmer.
Been a number of red flags all the way along the road. So, no, I don't accept this at all. Even without the official vetting, it was pretty obvious that Mandelson was the wrong candidate for America.
Forensic in opposition yesterday, however, Sir Keir Starmer was reduced to a laughingstock in the House of Commons.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
But here's the question. Today, will the last laugh be on the Prime Minister? Only 25 Labour MPs turned up for the emergency debate today. Live pictures on your screen, as you can see there, is Darren Jones forlornly batting on a lonely wicket. And breaking news, we've also had an immediate media blackout. No Labour Party MPs are even allowed to appear on GB News. Just how much longer can Sir Keir Starmer hang on?
Bless you, darling Mama. You remain forever in our hearts and prayers.
The late, great, majestic Queen Elizabeth II would have celebrated her 100th birthday today. Happy birthday, Her Majesty. In a video message, King Charles today claimed his mama would have been deeply troubled by the world we now live in. Today I'll ask the question, is the sun setting on Rule Britannia? Where precisely did it go wrong? What happened? Who's to blame? And can Rule Britannia still yet be saved? And the Liverpool Council has sent antisocial yobs flying off the handle by blasting classical music from lampposts to help disperse them. Well, woke critics have slammed the council as being elitist, but is their bark worse than their bite? That's all coming up in your next hour. A nice rousing blast of classical music there to get the spirit soaring this 5 p.m, isn't it? It's almost apt, fiddling away as Rome burns. Is that the state of the nation? 25 Labour MPs turned up today to support Sir Keir Starmer in that emergency debate. Seriously, more people turn up to watch my kid play football. Where are the Labour Party? And today we've just learned from Chris Hope, they're not even allowed to talk to us here at GB News. They've been whipped to not talk to us. I wonder why. Not a single person wants to come out and defend the Prime Minister on GB News. What does that tell you about the debate happening in the Commons right now? What does that tell you about a truly explosive PMQs that awaits at midday tomorrow? Is the clock ticking on Sir Keir Starmer's regime? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But enough from me as your headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon, good evening, in fact, to you. Just after 5 o'clock, the top story this hour. Well, the Mandelson row is deepening, and the urgent debate on his appointment as the US ambassador is still ongoing tonight in the Commons. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch among those giving her thoughts, and she has called for a vote of no confidence in Sir Keir Starmer, saying it's time for him to go.
The Prime Minister has let the country down, he's let Parliament down, and he's also let the Labour Party down. It is clear to everyone, except the Prime Minister himself, that he has failed on his own terms. It is clear to the public that he is failing at the job, it is clear to civil servants that he is throwing them under the bus, and it is clear to members across this House that he is not fit to lead.
It follows evidence from former top civil servant Ollie Robbins, who told MPs earlier today that there was an atmosphere of pressure around the vetting process.
I'm afraid what that translated into for my team in the Foreign Office, and certainly the handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post, was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard. Because the vetting process is not there to determine fitness for office or reputational risk, it's there to protect national security.
Ollie Robbins there speaking to MPs earlier. Well, in response, Downing Street has said they reject the insinuation from Ollie Robbins, insisting there was no pressure and no dismissive approach. But opposition figures say serious questions remain. James Cleverly from the Conservatives has said that more should have been done to scrutinise Mandelson's appointment.
But particularly if I were appointing Peter Mandelson, who has a history of scandal, I would have asked. I would have said, what's happened to the vetting? Is everything okay? Has he got the green light? I need to know, particularly as there was media speculation, there was press reporting that he had failed vetting. And if I'd seen those reports, I would have demanded to know what had happened. And so to claim that neither the Foreign Secretary nor indeed the Prime Minister even bothered to ask is absolutely unbelievable.
Turning to other news this evening, and the Prime Minister says there will be an unrelenting fight against anti-Semitism, warning that those responsible will face the full force of the law. His comments follow the arrest of 7 more people over a series of suspected arson attacks targeting Jewish sites in London. Counter-terror police say the suspects were detained over the past 48 hours in connection with an alleged plot to carry out a further attack. The arrests follow a number of incidents since March, including attacks on synagogues, community buildings and Jewish ambulances, as well as drones flown near the Israeli embassy. More than 20 people have now been arrested as part of the investigation. Police say they are also investigating whether individuals may have been paid to carry out the attacks. Donald Trump has said the ceasefire with Iran is unlikely to be extended as Wednesday's deadline is fast approaching. The US president says he's ready to resume strikes if talks fail, warning the military is raring to go. But he insists the US is still in a strong negotiating position and expects to secure what he calls a great deal. Meanwhile, Iran's parliamentary speaker says Tehran is preparing new options on the battlefield if fighting resumes. A second round of talks in Pakistan remains uncertain, with the US Vice President J.D. Vance expected to travel there, but no confirmed agreement from Iran. News closer to home, and there's been major disruption hitting the London Underground today as tube drivers began their series of 24-hour strikes. The RMT union says it had no alternative but to take action over proposals to move to a compressed 4-day week. It claims the changes could increase fatigue and impact safety. TfL insists the changes are voluntary and says the strike is completely unnecessary. Transport for London is also warning of significant disruption through the week, with commuters being urged to plan ahead. Another 24-hour walkout is due to begin on Thursday. And King Charles has paid a personal tribute to Queen Elizabeth II on what would have been her 100th birthday. In a recorded message, he reflected on her lifetime of service and said she would be deeply troubled by the state of the world today.
Not the marking of a milestone felt by absence, but the celebration of a life well lived and a legacy of hope as we strive together towards a better, happier tomorrow. One rooted in peace, justice, prosperity, and security. God bless you, darling Mama. You remain forever in our hearts and prayers.
Those are the 5 o'clock headlines. More news still to come this hour with Martin Daubney.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
But not before one last look at the markets today. The pound will buy you $1.3502 and €1.1482. The price of gold is £3,548 and 10 pence. That's per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 10,625 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Breaking news for you this afternoon. Keir Starmer sent a known security risk to Washington when he appointed Lord Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the United States, Kemi Badenoch claimed today. The Tory leader is presently holding an emergency debate. We can see there Ian Duncan-Smith is addressing the Commons right now, and the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, is responding to questions. Let's take a listen in.
After their due diligence, they were insisting it wasn't necessary. Surely he needs to retract.
I repeat my words and refer back to them. Mr. Speaker, much has been said about the ability of officials to disclose sensitive vetting information. As the Prime Minister has set out, I accept that the sensitive personal information provided by an individual being vetted must be protected from disclosure. If that were not the case, the integrity of the whole process would be compromised. However, what neither the Prime Minister nor I accept is that the appointing minister cannot be told of the recommendation made by UKSV, nor does the government accept that Foreign Office officials could not have informed the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary or the Cabinet Secretary of UKSV's recommendation, whilst also maintaining the necessary confidentiality that vetting requires. The Civil Service Code on this issue is clear, not in just normal practice, but especially in relation to when ministers are giving evidence to Parliament, as was the case via correspondence from the current Foreign Secretary to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. There is no law that stops civil servants sensibly flagging UKSV recommendations while protecting detailed sensitive vetting information, to allow ministers to make judgments on appointments or to explain matters to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the government has also changed the direct ministerial appointments process so that due diligence is now required as standard. The Prime Minister has also changed the process so that public announcements about direct ministerial appointments can now not be made until security vetting has been completed. Mr. Speaker, clearly what came to light about Peter Mandelson following the release of files by the United States Department for Justice was deeply disturbing. In February this year, the Prime Minister instructed officials to carry out a review of the national security vetting process to ensure it is fit for purpose. I can confirm, Mr. Speaker, that the terms of reference for that review have now been updated to include the means by which all decisions are made in relation to national security vetting. The government has appointed Sir Adrian Fulford to lead this review, and for completeness has separately asked the Government Security Group in the Cabinet Office to look at any security concerns raised during Peter Mandelson's tenure as Ambassador to the United States, in answer to the question raised by the Honourable Member for Bromsgrove. We will publish terms of reference, and the Government commits to returning to the House on its findings and recommendations. Mr. Speaker, just two other questions that were raised during the debate. One, there has been accusations made of the Prime Minister, both in this House of misleading and outside of this House of lying. That has been shown today by evidence in the Foreign Affairs Select Committee to be not true in any way. And I am sure the House will be as concerned as I am that whilst officials felt unable to provide this information to ministers, this information was made available to the Guardian newspaper. As a consequence of that, I can confirm that a leak inquiry is now underway. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I thank Right Honourable and Honourable members for their contributions to today's debate. This is my 6th address to this House on the appointment of Peter Mandelson as Ambassador to the United States of America. I recognise the House will want to know about the next steps in respect of the publication of the remainder of the information relevant to the humble address that was not included in the first tranche. I commit to the House that we will release this further material shortly, subject to the processes ongoing with the Metropolitan Police and the Intelligence and Security Committee, and we will continue to keep members updated as we make progress. Mr. Speaker, I commend the statement to the House.
That was Darren Jones there, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, the nearest we'll get to the Prime Minister today, reading out a statement. 2 lines leapt out from that as Kemi Badenoch leaps up to respond. First of all, Darren Jones claimed it's not true the Prime Minister lied. And then he said there is a full leak inquiry now underway as to how that information was leaked to The Guardian. The Labour Party once again fishing around for another fall guy. Incredible scenes as the debate rages on there in the House of Commons ahead of a hugely anticipated Prime Minister's questions tomorrow at midday. Let's cross straight now to GB News' political editor Chris Hope, who joins us live from Westminster. Chris, welcome back to the show. Incredible scenes there in the Commons. Darren Jones being forced to stand up and say it's not true the Prime Minister lied. Once again, they're hunting for another fall guy. A full leak inquiry is now underway. Chris, you're in the thick of it, right in the heart of Westminster there. What's the mood?
The mood amongst Labour MPs is extremely grim. I've been walking around the central lobby and into the various places where MPs meet, and the ones I meet who I know pretty well saying, will you come on GB News? They seem quite reluctant. They seem quite loath to try and speak out. They're not sure where this goes next. You heard there from Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. He's saying that the next pile of documents relating to the appointment of Peter Mandelson will be published soon. Now, will that be before Parliament breaks up for the end of this session? Probably on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Probably Tuesday. Will that happen before then? I somehow doubt it, because this is absolutely battering the party. Look at the viewing figures, frankly, of GB News this morning, watching that official of Sir Oliver Robbins give evidence, went through the roof. People are very, very interested in what's going on. This is a story which is broken out way beyond the normal Westminster bubble, and Labour MPs know that. They were folding their hands, looking quite sullen when I saw them yesterday. Today, when I was grabbing them, saying, come on GB News, you know, with me, that kind of thing, they just weren't wanting to come on. I'm trying to get, the party says there's no problem here. They encourage people to come on GB News, so the party aren't stopping them, Martin, but they don't want to come on. They don't know where this goes next. One Labour MP said to me, it's like the end days of Boris Johnson, but no one can challenge him. So the problem that Labour MPs appear to think they have is that they want to replace Keir Starmer, or some of them do, but there's no obvious contender to replace them, because look at Angela Rayner. She's speaking around 6:20 in Westminster, near where I am. What she says will be interesting, but she's still under investigation by HMRC. Andy Burnham, he could be maybe the next leader, but he's not even an MP. Other candidates, Wes Streeting, quite close to Peter Mandelson. Shabana Mahmood, a rather brave Home Secretary trying to take on the left to try and control the borders. She won't win enough support. So there's no one obvious to replace Keir Starmer, and it appears that fact is what's stopping many MPs breaking cover. The numbers, though, are clear. 80 MPs are required to start a leadership campaign against Sir Keir Starmer. We're not there yet, but I just think those numbers who privately want to replace him are ticking up.
Chris Hope's incredible to think that just 25 Labour Party MPs turned up to support their man today out of 403 who remain from the 411 who were elected in July 2024. That's just 6.2% of Labour parliamentarians turned up today to defend Sir Keir Starmer. Absolutely incredible stuff. Thank you very much there. Chris Hope joining us live from College Green. Thank you very, very much indeed. Let's get to my next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by the independent peer, Baroness Claire Fox. Baroness Fox, always a pleasure to have your esteemed company there. Chris Hope saying that it just feels like the end of days for Sir Keir Starmer. It feels like the final chapter of the Boris Johnson regime. How close do you think we are to that moment, Claire Fox?
Well, I mean, Chris Hope's absolutely right. There isn't an obvious replacement, but it doesn't really matter whether he's there or not. This is absolutely a zombie parliament, isn't it? It's led by a prime minister that has power but no authority, and it's seeping minute by minute. And I think some of the discussion is concentrating on, did Keir Starmer lie? I don't think that's that helpful. I think that what's been exposed, though, is somebody whose judgment is absolutely shot through, not just the original judgment of putting into place the Prince of Darkness, as his nickname was, as in Mandelson, as the key diplomat in America, as the ambassador, but also then running away from taking any responsibility for that decision. There's one thing doing that, but he didn't get him vetted beforehand. He now won't admit to that. And it's just unsavory, the whole thing, for me, just to see someone blaming anyone but himself. That is the thing which I think the public will find most disgraceful. This is somebody who should be taking responsibilities, an elected prime minister, and he should show what leadership really is, which is own up when he makes a mistake, take it on board, take the criticism, instead lashing out.
Claire Fox, we see there the emergency debate has now just wound up. The Labour parliamentarians scuttling for cover. All eyes now, Claire Fox, of course, on PMQs tomorrow, midday. It could be an astonishingly bruising encounter for the Prime Minister. We've already seen him reduced to a laughingstock yesterday in Parliament. How brutal do you think it could be tomorrow at PMQs?
Well, I mean, Kemi Badenoch's obviously on a roll, so, that's part of what will make it particularly bruising. She's been very effective in the last 2 days, it has to be said. But I think the most damaging thing for Keir Starmer is the point that you keep mentioning, Martin, which is that nobody turned up to that debate today, 25 MPs. I think that shows that it's kind of like a huge embarrassment. I've noticed in the Lords, the Labour Lords, who are usually the absolute, terrier-like loyal to the government, are kind of just scurrying down corridors. They don't want to be caught out. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to defend him. I think that we should give some credit here, by the way, to Emily Thornberry, who's, the way she conducted that, not inquisition, but that discussion with Ollie Robbins this morning, I thought was so impressive that she was able to do that. I think that it's his own Labour backbenchers, people like everyone from Diane Abbott, but not just that, who are just going to say, you've let us down. And so I think what will happen in PMQs tomorrow is that he just hasn't got the support on his own benches. And by the way, one of the most shocking revelations was this idea that the Prime Minister, not only, forget the Starmer thing in a way, tried to get Matthew Doyle a diplomatic role, actually, went out of his way, Lord Doyle, now disgraced because he has been shown up to have been friends with another paedophile. I mean, it's a bit of a habit. And he tried to get Matthew Doyle a job as a part of the American team around the ambassador. I mean, this was just scurrilous. And as it happens, as Ollie Robbins explained, it was like he didn't have any diplomatic experience whatsoever. So I think there's just so many layers of murkiness to this. But what we've got to remember is that this is a government that held itself up to the highest standards. It was sanctimoniously holier than thou about its commitment to process. It was going to ensure that there was no scandal. It absolutely ridiculed the Boris Johnson regime as though, what disgusting characters they were for Partygate. And actually what's happened is that self-regard that they had, that they were virtuous beyond anyone being able to say anything negative about them, has really been shown up to be a complete, the most self-aggrandizing self-deception we've ever seen. And they gaslight us all the time, don't they? They're forever saying, how can you say that about our Prime Minister? This is a man of great integrity. And the whole nation just shouts as a mass, no, he isn't. What are you talking about? Well, they really believe that of themselves. But I think more and more of their own Labour backbenchers know that not to be true.
Baroness Claire Fox, thank you very, very much for joining us on this show today. A pleasure to have your company. Thank you very, very much indeed. It's always an absolute delight. Back to the studio now. I'm delighted to be joined by our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, a key detail to emerge there from Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, is this next tranche of the Mandelson files expected to drop. There could be hugely damaging revelations published within that. Do we know when that might be published? Chris Hope said that it might not be before the end of this parliamentary term. Any more details on that?
Yes, well, he has said as soon as possible, but this is a never-ending nightmare for the government, isn't it? Every time new evidence emerges, it does them more damage. Now, the Times are reporting, and the political editor is usually on the money, that the next lot of Mandelson documents will not be published before the local elections and the elections in Wales and Scotland, nor, in fact, till after the King's speech on May the 13th. So that's kicking this down the line a few weeks. But let's face it, this will die down potentially after PMQs tomorrow, but then it's going to be re-energised again the next time. And also, just listening to Claire Fox talking about Matthew Doyle, the fact that the former Director of Comms was suggested for a plum ambassadorial role, and Ollie Robbins said that wouldn't be appropriate. He ended up in the House of Lords. You know, another person like Peter Mandelson, who was friends with a convicted sex offender. It does seem to be a pattern. He has said that he had no knowledge that this was in the offing, no knowledge of it at all. I think it's interesting that Richard Tice, the deputy leader of Reform, has absolutely slated this news and said it's a classic example of jobs for the boys. There are Labour MPs, and Rosie Duffield, who was a Labour MP, saying that Matthew Doyle was very fond, as head of comms, of briefing against female figures in the government. And my goodness.
The kind of cronyism that this government promised to end. And again, that's part of the problem here. As Baroness Fox said there, holier than thou, sanctimonious in opposition, and in power, perhaps it's just more of the same. Catherine Forster, thank you very, very much indeed for your expertise as ever. Now, still to come.
God bless you, darling Mama. You remain forever in our hearts and prayers.
Yes, on what would have been her 100th birthday, will reflect on King Charles's video message as he says that the late Queen Elizabeth II, his darling Mama, would be upset with the world today and the state of the nation. That's next here on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:30 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 100 years ago today, the late, great, majestic, the magnificent Queen Elizabeth II was born. In a video message, King Charles today claimed that his mama would have been deeply troubled by the world we live in now. Well, let's cross now to GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, majestic scenes there behind you at Buckingham Palace, and I believe you even had the pleasure earlier on of sipping one of the late Queen's favourite cocktails. I'm not at all jealous. Tell us all about it.
Perks of a job, Martin, indeed. Yes, it's been quite a poignant day here outside Buckingham Palace and around London to commemorate 100 years since Queen Elizabeth II was born. The King and the Queen were at the British Museum this morning with some other working members of the royal family, viewing and reviewing the final designs for the permanent national memorial, which will be erected in St James's Park when it is ready. A bronze statue of the late Queen will be placed wearing her garter robes just on the Mall here. Then the other side of St James's Park will be a new statue of Prince Philip, the late Duke of Edinburgh, the late Queen's husband, of course, and he will be wearing a naval uniform. In between them will be a bridge, which is going to be kind of modelled on the tiara that Queen Elizabeth wore for her wedding back in 1947. There is a little bit of upset about that particular national memorial because there was another design proposed which featured the Queen on a horse overlooking the Mall, but the King, nonetheless, this morning said it was a fantastic final design. So if the King says it's fine, I guess that's what we are going with. Then later on today, as you mentioned, inside Buckingham Palace was a magnificent reception to celebrate and commemorate the late Queen's life and legacy. Lots of charities that she was patron of were represented there. The King, Queen, Prince and Princess of Wales, all the working royals actually were there, apart from perhaps Vice Admiral Tim Lawrence, who was away doing a board meeting, I believe. But there were three, very poignantly, centenarians who turned 100 years old today, the same day that Queen Elizabeth II would have, John, Joan and Mary, and I asked them what the secret was to a long life.
I think it's luck. I think it's a fluke, probably. Or my old father, he made 99. I think you've got to have the right parents, I think, to start off with.
I think it was probably how I was brought up. We didn't have, we had good food as children. I can't remember eating chips or anything when I was little.
The secret? I don't know. I think it must be just get up every morning and think, here I am. And now here I am.
In Buckingham Palace.
In Buckingham Palace, of all places.
Wise words from John, Joan and Mary there, and it was really an honour to meet them. And my favourite part was, Martin, as you mentioned, there was a Daubney style cocktail served to guests, which I got to sample. It was Daubney, rosemary, tonic water and lemon, I believe, because the late Queen's favourite drink was a gin and Daubney, although gin was not part of the cocktail because it was a daytime reception. But nonetheless, the guests appeared to enjoy themselves, as did members of the royal family.
There's nothing wrong with a daytime drink, Cameron Walker, it has to be said, particularly on such a magnificent day. But on a serious point, John, Mary and Joan there, I don't know what's in their tea, but they're as fit as a fiddle. They're sharp as a tack, majestic to see. And I wonder, it's a bittersweet occasion today, Cameron Walker. I said to you earlier on, I've got a couple of portraits of Her Majesty at home. I gave each one a little kiss on the way out. Maybe that's a bad thing to, I don't know, disrespectful. We greatly, greatly miss Her Majesty. I think a great many people deeply, deeply miss Her Majesty. And that message, the video message from the King today, I wonder if a lot of people do feel that we miss the Queen because she was something that bound us together, something that brought us together as a nation, the throne, the crown, the flag, and more than ever today, Cameron Walker, we miss that sense of patriotic togetherness.
Yeah, and I think she was kind of timeless, Martin. She spanned generations, whether you're John, Joan and Mary's generation, who grew up with the late Queen as a young princess, you know, in her war gear, maintaining all the vehicles at the end of the Second World War, or if you are just a young child who watched Her Majesty have tea with Paddington Bear just a few months before she died during the Platinum Jubilee. She really did kind of span the generations, and there was something about the Queen which perhaps everybody respected, and she is still, according to YouGov, the most popular member of the royal family. Nonetheless, though, there is a little bit of good news perhaps for monarchists out there. Support for the monarchy more broadly now, according to the latest YouGov figures, is actually higher today in 2026 than it was in the final months of the late Queen's reign. So a boost for King Charles and the future King William.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Majestic reporting there from Buckingham Palace. Cameron Walker, GB News' royal correspondent. Thank you very much. Once again, happy birthday to Her Majesty. We certainly miss you. Lots more still to come between now and 6 p.m, including only 25 Labour Party MPs even bothered to turn up today for the emergency debate on the Mandelson vetting scandal. 25 out of 403, that's just 6%. Just how much longer can Sir Keir Starmer keep on hanging on? But first is your traffic and your travel news, and please stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M4 eastbound is queuing on the junction 32 Corryton off-slip, with 3 lanes currently restricted due to congestion. Meanwhile, on the M42 northbound between junction 7A and junction 8, road management is closing one of 3 lanes for maintenance. In the southeast, the M25 clockwise between junction 10 and junction 11 has an accident resulting in 1 lane being blocked. Additionally, on the trains, Avanti West Coast is experiencing disruption between Wigan Northwestern and Preston, while Great Northern is running a reduced service at St Neots. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Plenty more blue skies and dry conditions to come for the rest of this week across much of the UK. Get a bit warmer as well as we head towards the weekend, but there is a chilly wind blowing across the east coast and down towards the southwest as this low pressure nudges in. The isobars just pinching together, getting quite blustery and gusty through the rest of today and overnight across southwest England and South Wales in particular. Brisk breeze blowing along the east coast also, most places just dry and clear, but some low cloud just trickling into northeastern parts of Scotland as we go through the night. So turning a bit misty, a bit murky here. The breeze or the cloud keeping the temperatures up, maybe some pockets of frost across western Scotland where we have the clearest skies and the lightest winds. A brisk breeze then bringing a chill tomorrow morning. It'll look glorious and sunny for most, but that wind will be bringing a cold feel, I suspect, across the southwest of England. A bit more cloud spilling in towards the Isles of Scilly as well. Might be some patchy cloud elsewhere also, but for most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, a blue sky start to Wednesday. Quite drab and grey across Aberdeenshire and up towards Orkney. A lot of mist and low cloud here around the coast, maybe even the odd little bit of drizzle. But for the vast majority, it's dry, and most will stay dry through the day. A bit more cloud spilling into the far southwest. Small chance of a shower over the Isles of Scilly, perhaps even into West Cornwall later. Generally just a fine and a sunny day. The wind's making a big difference, feeling pretty chilly on those North Sea coasts and feeling quite fresh with the gusty winds in the southwest. But inland, warmer than today, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 Celsius. But that east coast may stay in single digits. Through Wednesday evening, not a great deal of change. Still the small chance of a shower in southwest England. A bit more cloud spilling into Northern Ireland as well. The east coast susceptible to some low cloud over the next few days, but mostly it stays dry, stays sunny, and it gets a bit warmer too.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Keir Starmer sent a known security risk to Washington when he appointed Lord Peter Mandelson as the ambassador to the United States. Kemi Badenoch said today in an explosive debate, an emergency debate in the House of Commons. Let's get the latest now on the Mandelson scandal with GB News' political editor, live from the heart of Westminster, Chris Hope. Chris, when we spoke about 40 minutes ago, you said there's an end of days feeling in Westminster, a bright sunny day, but the storm clouds very much gathering for Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah, that's right, Martin. I don't say that lightly, and I've been covering politics for 25 years in Westminster, but I can smell what's in the air. It's not just the pollen here on College Green outside the House of Commons. There's a feeling amongst Labour MPs that they can't see where the PM goes from here. They sat there with their arms folded, giving half-hearted cheers yesterday. The PM was in front of MPs for 2 hours, 25 minutes. He came there to reset the record after what he said last September about the Mandelson appointment. And after about, 2 hours, let's say 2 hours, the vast majority of the MPs had left. They weren't going to hang around and support their guy. That is so telling, because these MPs hold the future of the Prime Minister in their hands. And then fast forward to today, well, a disastrous session with Oliver Robbins, who came across very, very well as a fair dealer, someone who feels, frankly, chucked overboard by the political machine. And then a debate this afternoon, I counted 25 Labour MPs there. The PM wasn't there. It was a stunt debate, really, created by Tory MPs to put more pressure on the government. But where are Labour MPs? They won't speak to me. They claim, I think wrongly, they're being told they can't speak to us by the party machine. That's denied by the party machine, but they don't want to talk to GB News, and I'm intrigued by that. But someone I did speak to earlier on College Green was a very, very senior Mandarin, one of the most senior still alive, Lord Butler of Brockwell. He was a cabinet secretary, the same job which Antonio Romeo has now, the top role in Whitehall from 1998 to 2008. And here's what he told me and what he thought about Oliver Robbins. I think everyone saw that the person you've been defending and giving advice to so much in private.
No, he's not an ally of mine. Indeed, he's only really an acquaintance. And I've had no contact with him. But I think he's been done an injustice, and I wanted to say that.
I saw you in the Commons watching closely what was said about him yesterday. Were you disappointed to see politicians push him out and almost make him a scapegoat for what happened?
Well, I'm very disappointed to see him being pushed out. I think he's a first-class official, as he showed in his evidence today, and his departure is a loss to the government.
It certainly felt that way. Many Brexiteers on that side blamed him for the Theresa May Brexit deal, but I think they saw a different Oliver Robbins today, someone who's doing their best by their political masters and got blamed really for a political row.
I think he, like other civil servants, always does do his best for his political masters. He did the same for Theresa May, and now he's done it for the present Prime Minister.
And what happens next? Can he come back? Can he get his job back? It feels that the wrong guy has had to walk the plank here.
Well, it'd be nice to think he could come back. I think in real life that's unlikely. It would be the best outcome, but I'm afraid it's unlikely that the Prime Minister will apologise and reappoint him.
And just very finally, so what's your advice to Keir Starmer? It seems he may have acted hastily last week in jettisoning a rather good public official. What should he do next?
Well, I think he did act hastily, and I think he probably acted without proper process. And it may be that Ollie Robbins will take action about that, and there'll be a very substantial compensation.
Lord Butler, Robin Butler. Lord Butler there, of course, the former Cabinet Secretary. Thank you for joining us today on GB News. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You know, Chris Hope, I've been struck today so often by Conservatives saying this just feels exactly like the final days of Boris Johnson. That's very much the vibe today.
Well, it really is, and the difference is this, Martin. Back in the day in 2022, 2023, when Boris Johnson was hounded out of office by his own MPs and Sir Keir Starmer as leader of Labour, there were many Tory MPs who felt they could replace him and, frankly, could have replaced him. Of course, in the end, they went with Theresa May and then Rishi Sunak, but there's no one obvious for Keir Starmer, and for me that's what's holding him in office. Shabana Mahmood, well regarded, a strong Home Secretary, admired by Nigel Farage and Reform UK. She would never win the support. Wes Streeting, too close to Peter Mandelson. Andy Burnham, he's not an MP. And the last one could be Angela Rayner. She's giving a speech tonight in Westminster. I'll try and be there to hear what's being said at 6:20. But she's still under investigation from HMRC over an underpay stamp duty bill, and she was judged to be not at the ministerial standard by Laurie Magnus, the PM's ethics czar, last September. So how can she replace him? So I think the Labour seem to me in a bit of a bind here. A lot of them have lost confidence in their leader, but they can't say so. And there's a big hurdle to replace him. 80 MPs must support a rival candidate to be leader. We're not there yet, Martin, but I think that number is creeping up tonight.
OK, thank you very much, Chris Hope. I know you're suffering from hay fever there, and no doubt with the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, perhaps, who's next to be blown away. Thank you very much indeed, Chris Hope, joining us from College Green. Always an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, coming up next, we are going to be speaking to a Labour Party supporter, as Chris Hope said there, we've been trying to get a Labour Party MP to speak to us all day, not usually shy about coming forward, but just to point out some of the metrics. Looking at that debate today, where Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, was sent in to bat, there were 25 Labour Party MPs out of 403 who remain from the 411 who were elected in July 2024. 6.2% of Labour Party MPs out there to defend their man. What does that tell you? Stick with us, we'll have more analysis next.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Costa bosses have now had to hire bouncers to protect their sandwiches. Don't get me wrong, the sandwiches are quite expensive, I can see why. But isn't it just another example of how we don't feel particularly safe? I know you could find a clip of Sadiq Khan saying London is the safest in comparison to loads of other cities. That's talking about homicide rates. It's a different world. Homicide rates versus shoplifting.
Well, compared to the favelas in Rio de Janeiro, it is safer.
if you find the right metric, if you cherry-pick your data, but no one enjoys being in a shop seeing stuff being nicked around you, and that's the world.
And we are all seeing that now.
Yeah.
That's the real worry, is that it doesn't matter where you go. We were just talking, we've got several anecdotes just between us. People at home will know they'll have gone in somewhere, whether it's their local store, whether it's Marks and Spencer's, whether it's a department store, and they will see people filling their pockets, filling their bags, and walking out. And I don't think we used to see it like that.
I live in a quiet little spot, and I've seen it twice now. Sainsbury's and the Co-op.
I would
I've
have
seen
the
it.
bottle.
No, well, good.
Yeah, we're not promoting it.
I'd get tackled.
But you will end up paying for it. It is the law-abiding, honest people who end up paying for it. People think, oh, they're big corporations, they can afford it. It doesn't. That's not how it works. It's our pockets it hits, because prices will have to go up to accommodate this. And it's a lack of consequences. There's a big... Kemi Badenoch has written a big essay about it in the Daily Mail today, saying it's not because young people don't have table tennis to play that they're doing this. It's because there are no consequences. Once you remove all consequences for something like a crime like shoplifting, then it will happen. You give people an inch.
Who's saying that? Kemi Badenoch?
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because a lot of people would pour it back down.
Yeah.
I mean, Theresa May, when she was Home Secretary, who stripped the police force right down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's bang on 10 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Keir Starmer sent a known security risk to Washington when he appointed Lord Mandelson as the ambassador to the US, Kemi Badenoch has said today. Now, let's speak with the political commentator, Andy Williams. Andy, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Thank you for joining us, because nobody from the Labour Party has been prepared to come onto the channel today. 25 of them, you can count them on two hands and one on your feet. Has bothered to even show up today. Is there any wonder? This has all the feelings of the end of days of Sir Keir Starmer, does it not?
Well, I think there's a number of problems here. I mean, firstly, you introduced me as a Labour supporter, and that is broadly true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm supportive of the way the Prime Minister has handled this disaster. And let's be clear, it is an absolute disaster for him. What's happened here is that the Prime Minister took a calculated risk and it did not pay off. In fact, it spectacularly backfired. And what he can't say, but absolutely should say, is, look, I knew the risks when it came to Peter Mandelson, and I hoped that it wasn't going to blow up in my face and that Peter Mandelson wasn't going to, for the latest time, cause another government a massive headache here. I mean, more than a headache. He took a risk. It didn't pay off. Do I think Keir Starmer is a liar, as he was called in the House of Commons by both Lee Anderson and Zara Sultana yesterday? No, I do not. But he absolutely has a lot to answer for when it comes to his judgment, number one, because ultimately, as the leader of whether it's a business or a country, you are paid to have sound judgment and to get it right more often than not. And secondly, what we've seen is this is an incredibly, and I think uniquely, passive Prime Minister. You know, he lacks curiosity. He doesn't ask the difficult questions or the right questions. And actually, the reason we got into this mess is because he thought that appointing Mandelson was the easy thing to do and that it wouldn't blow up in his face, and it has. And here we are.
Andy Williams, thank you very, very much for joining us. An absolute pleasure to have your company. Well, it's 8 minutes before the hour of 6. I'm delighted to be joined by the Queen of Primetime Debate. Of course, Jubes and Co.
I love
is
it when I'm next to you. I love it. I normally only see you down a TV screen. I'm normally shouting at you or cheering you or trying to pass you the tissues or whatever it is on whatever it is that you're discussing. But boy, oh boy, what a day it's been again today.
Do you know what, Jubes? I want to show this clip to you. I know you've been speaking about this. This, I think, was the moment it all went wrong for Keir Starmer finally. Yesterday, he was reduced to a laughingstock in the House of Commons.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
Well, it is incredible. It's absolutely right. It's incredibly unbelievable. It's incredibly ridiculous. It's incredibly disingenuous. It's incredibly distracting. And it's incredibly disappointing that here we are debating things like tick boxes and process, and actually crying about vetting when actually it turns out that these people didn't care about vetting after all, when actually what we should be talking about are things like, why is this government trying to control where your pension money is invested? I'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. The cost of living, you name it, that's what I want people to be focusing on in this country. But in the meantime, still the pressure is on Starmer to resign. I'll ask all of you, as I asked you yesterday, should he stay or should he go? Martina, can you imagine who would get in his place if indeed he did go? Goodness me, it'd be enough to make your head absolutely explode, wouldn't it?
Be careful what you wish for. Angela Rayner attracted a quarter of all the betting money today. Keir Starmer is now 4-1 on to be gone by the end of the year. That means he's very, very much in trouble. Jubes & Co is up next. I'll be back at 7 o'clock for a special edition of GB News tonight. We'll have David Davis from that astonishing debate in the Commons today. The Prime Minister hangs by a thread. All eyes on midday at PMQs. But before that, of course, it's the Queen of Primetime Debate. Jubes & Co is up next.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Plenty more blue skies and dry conditions to come for the rest of this week across much of the UK. Get a bit warmer as well as we head towards the weekend, but there is a chilly wind blowing across the east coast and down towards the southwest as this low pressure nudges in. The isobars just pinching together, getting quite blustery and gusty through the rest of today and overnight across southwest England and South Wales in particular. Brisk breeze blowing along the east coast also, most places just dry and clear, but some low cloud just trickling into northeastern parts of Scotland as we go through the night. So turning a bit misty, a bit murky here. The breeze or the cloud keeping the temperatures up, maybe some pockets of frost across western Scotland where we have the clearest skies and the lightest winds. A brisk breeze then bringing a chill tomorrow morning. It'll look glorious and sunny for most, but that wind will be bringing a cold feel, I suspect, across the southwest of England. A bit more cloud spilling in towards the Isles of Scilly as well. Might be some patchy cloud elsewhere also, but for most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, a blue sky start to Wednesday. Quite drab and grey across Aberdeenshire and up towards Orkney. A lot of mist and low cloud here around the coast, maybe even the odd little bit of drizzle. But for the vast majority, it's dry and most will stay dry through the day. A bit more cloud spilling into the far southwest. Small chance of a shower over the Isles of Scilly, perhaps even into West Cornwall later. Generally just a fine and a sunny day. The wind's making a big difference, feeling pretty chilly on those North Sea coasts and feeling quite fresh with the gusty winds in the southwest. But inland, warmer than today, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 Celsius. But that east coast may stay in single digits. Through Wednesday evening, not a great deal of change. Still the small chance of a shower in southwest England. A bit more cloud spilling into Northern Ireland as well. The east coast susceptible to some low cloud over the next few days, but mostly it stays dry, stays sunny, and it gets a bit warmer too.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A13 westbound near Thurrock, a crash between the A1012 and the M25 is closing one lane. The A27 eastbound in Brighton is busy between the A23 and the A277, with around 20 minutes of delays. In Durham, a collision on the A19 southbound between the A182 and the A1086 has one lane shut and delays of 40 minutes. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is disrupted between Wigan, North Western and Preston, while Greater Anglia has issues between Hackney Downs and London Liverpool Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for summer, you could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William